Chapter 671. Yixing and Meng Yuanting had fought a great battle. They had shot more than 200 times in a row, which had consumed a lot of stamina. After returning to the Dark Star sect, Yixing didn't have much time to celebrate his victory. Instead, he took a profound grade recovery pill and went into seclusion to adjust his breathing. At the same time, he had to reflect on this battle. During the battle, Yixing could feel that Meng Yuanting had been restless and anxious at the beginning, but later on, he had calmed down. Meng Yuanting's attainment in martial arts had grown higher and higher. Clearly, he was using his arrows to cultivate martial arts. Even so, Yixing didn't stop shooting. Instead, he transformed into a dragon to kill Meng Yuanting. Yixing was very confident in his comprehension ability. Both of them were in a profound state of comprehension. Yixing was confident that he would be the first to make a breakthrough. Therefore, Yixing didn't have any distractions. He wholeheartedly immersed himself in archery, completely ignoring his exhaustion. In the end, Yixing won. His archery was the first to make a breakthrough, reaching the 8 transformations of heart. It immediately disrupted Meng Yuanting's defense, causing the latter to suffer heavy injuries and lose his life. Thinking back on this battle, Yixing had gained a lot. His comprehension of archery had become even more consolidated. After this battle, Yixing finally felt the barrier to the 4th level of astral reaching realm. It seemed that it wouldn't take long for him to break through to the 4th star Venerable realm. Breaking through to the 4th star Venerable realm was a breakthrough from low-level to mid-level Venerable. It was much more difficult than breaking through to the 2nd or 3rd star Venerable realm. It probably wouldn't happen in a day or two. He would need a quiet environment to break through slowly. After recovering his stamina, Black Tiger King calculated the time and came to find him. In the courtyard where Yixing lived, there were stone tables and stone chairs beside the pond. Yixing and Black Tiger King sat opposite each other. The Black Tiger King's face was ruddy, and he was in high spirits. Clearly, he was in an extremely good mood. He said, "Brother Yixing, you've completely become famous in this life and death gamble. Ha! I dare say that everyone in the entire Dark Star Church is discussing this battle. There's no one who isn't shocked by your performance." Yixing smiled faintly and said, "It's good that we won this battle, but it's not that big of a deal. Killing the Supreme King Meng Tai and destroying the Great Yuan Empire is the real deal." The Black Biao King chuckled and said, "It's a good thing that you haven't lost your head from victory. However, you're wrong. You've won this battle, so it's definitely a big deal. This is a battle of extraordinary significance." Who would have thought that the Meng family actually had experts like Meng Zhanfeng and Meng Yuanting, who were secretly nurtured? But even if Meng Tai took out one trump card after another, you still won. The influence of this battle is too great. Before long, all the martial artists in the entire Star Continent will hear about this battle. The Great Yuan Empire's fortune will be completely overturned by this battle. Yixing said, "I don't care about the influence of other parties. As long as the Dark Star Church's experts don't make things difficult for Brother Black Biao, it's fine." The Black Tiger King thumped his chest loudly and said, "Haha, in the past, there were some who didn't believe in the Demon Star of troubled times. However, Brother Yixing, your performance has already stunned them and thoroughly slapped them in the face. Now, who still doesn't believe that you are the Demon Star of troubled times? Because this brother of mine recognized you early on, they have praised me to the point of deification. Everyone says that my insight is as sharp as a mirror, haha. Haha." Yixing also laughed. Compared to the Dark Star Church, he was an outsider. Now, it seemed that he could be accepted into the Dark Star Church, and the Black Biao King would no longer be in a difficult situation. Yixing said, "Brother Black Biao, I've sensed the barrier to the 4th level of astral reaching realm. I'll be in seclusion for a period of time and break through to the 4th star before coming out. Joy appeared in the Black Biao King's eyes as he said, "So soon? You're about to break through to the 4th star." Haha, good. Yixing's cultivation had increased much faster than the Black Biao King had expected. Now that he was about to break through again, the Black Biao King was naturally incomparably happy. The Black Biao King's smile disappeared as he said, "Yixing, from your performance in the life and death battle, you seem to be a fist master, spear master, and archery master." Yixing nodded. The Black Biao King said with a serious expression, "This proves that your martial talent is extremely monstrous, and your comprehension is exceptional. However, you're cultivating 3 weapons at the same time. Man and weapon as one is not good." Yixing said, "I'd like to hear the details." The Black Biao King said, "The cultivation of martial Tao is endless. What's important is quality, not quantity. Man and weapon as one is not the end of martial Tao. Therefore, your goal should be higher, and not just man and weapon as one." Yixing nodded, "I know. After man and weapon as one can comprehend martial intent." The Black Biao King said, "Correct. Only by comprehending martial intent can one be truly powerful. As the saying goes, if you comprehend one method, you comprehend 10,000 methods. If your sword Tao is man and weapon as one, then the weapons you use won't be too bad. Therefore, regarding martial Tao cultivation, the most taboo is to advance simultaneously. Rather than 3 martial arts, man and weapon as one, it's better to focus on one. As long as you comprehend martial intent, even if you use other weapons, the power will be more formidable than man and weapon as one." Yixing immediately understood. He said, "Brother Black Biao, what you mean is that as long as I comprehend arrow intent, whether it is a saber, sword, spear, or gloves, the power will surpass man and weapon as one." The Black Biao King nodded, "Correct. A martial intent is an extremely pure martial intent, without the slightest flaw. You have 3 weapons as man and weapon as one, and your martial Tao is not pure. Under the influence of each other, the difficulty of comprehending a martial intent will multiply. The difficulty of comprehending a martial intent is already extremely high. If the difficulty is doubled, then the chances of you comprehending a martial intent before you reach the King realm are minuscule. However, if you cultivate a single martial Tao, and purely focus on your heart of martial Tao, then I believe that with your perception, it's very likely that you will create a legend in the Star Continent. Before you reach the King realm, you will comprehend a martial intent. A martial intent represents a martial Tao accomplishment. After you reach the King realm, the degree to which you comprehend a martial intent is extremely important to your martial Tao cultivation. If you are one step ahead, then you will always be ahead." Yixing's eyes brightened. He said, "Because it's very easy for me to cultivate martial arts, I also cultivated archery, spear, and fist techniques because I felt that I wouldn't waste any time. But now, it seems that although it hasn't affected my martial Tao cultivation, it has affected the purity of my martial Tao. In my heart, the path of archery is my favorite. Then, from now on, I will not focus on archery, and will walk the path of pure archery." The Black Biao King said, "The path of archery is a special martial Tao. Even an ordinary person can use a bow and arrow to kill someone several times stronger than them, and martial artists are even more so. But, the path of archery requires too much skill. It requires an extremely high perception, as well as an innate interest. Otherwise, it will be difficult to achieve anything. Therefore, although the path of archery is strong, there are very few martial artists that cultivate it. There is no problem with your perception, and you also have an interest in archery. It's hard to imagine that if you had comprehended arrow intent before you reached the King realm, then after you reached the King realm, just how powerful would your archery be?" Chapter 672. Yixing was looking forward to how powerful his archery skills would be after he comprehended arrow intent. With Yixing's current archery skills, it was sufficient to take a person's life from 20 to 30 miles away. If he became a king and comprehended arrow intent, wouldn't he be able to take a person's life from over 100 miles away with a single arrow? To a king, a distance of 10 miles might be a short distance, but 100 miles was still a very far distance. It was difficult to cross in 3 to 5 breaths. At that time, Yi Xing's archery skills would appear and disappear unpredictably even to a king. Killing a king would be as easy as flipping his hand. Yi Xing withdrew the longing in his heart and said, "Brother Black Tiger, is the comprehension of the grand momentum of heaven and earth the same as the martial Tao?" I also comprehended 3 grand momentum of heaven and earth at the same time. The Black Tiger King shook his head and said, "That's not the case. The martial Tao is comprehending one law, comprehending all laws. Therefore, if one is proficient in one law, they will comprehend all laws. The grand momentum of heaven and earth is different. No matter how high one's comprehension of one grand momentum of heaven and earth is, it will not affect the power of the other grand momentum of heaven and earth. The grand momentum of heaven and earth is related to the power of the universe. If a martial artist only comprehends one grand momentum of heaven and earth, they can only draw upon one kind of heaven and earth origin energy. The universe is composed of various attributes and can only draw upon one kind of heaven and earth origin energy. Once it is countered by someone or the environment, it will be a very big shortcoming. For example, if a cultivator who only comprehended the force of fire faced a cultivator who comprehended the force of water, even if the cultivator who comprehended the force of fire was stronger, he would still be defeated by the cultivator who comprehended the force of water. Another example is that in places like rivers, lakes, seas, and other places with abundant water origin energy, fire attribute martial artists will also be at a disadvantage. Therefore, martial artists will basically comprehend 2 or more grand momentum of heaven and earth. Of course, quality is more important than quantity. It is also applicable to the comprehension of the grand momentum of heaven and earth. A person's energy is limited. Wanting to comprehend all of the grand momentum of heaven and earth is simply impossible. Some martial artists may only comprehend one grand momentum of heaven and earth in order to pursue the extreme. But most martial artists will comprehend 2 grand momentum of heaven and earth. As for some people with heaven-defying comprehension, they will even comprehend 3 grand momentum of heaven and earth. Yi Xing chuckled and said, "Looks like my comprehension of 3 grand forces of heaven and earth isn't considered much." The Black Tiger King said, "The grand momentum of the heavens and the earth is the comprehension towards the various grand Taos of the heavens and the earth. After the momentum reaches perfection, one will be able to comprehend the true meaning of the Tao." However, Tao intent was a realm that only high-level king realm experts could comprehend easily. Before reaching the level of a high-level king realm expert, it was extremely difficult to comprehend it, and it was impossible to do so in the Star Continent. I've only read about it in the notes of our sect's founder. These are too far away. In the Star Continent, being able to comprehend a kind of worldly grand momentum to perfection is already the limit. The 2 of them conversed for a while before the Black Biao King bid farewell and left. He instructed that no one was allowed to enter Yi Xing's courtyard and told Yi Xing to cultivate in seclusion in peace. Yi Xing returned to his room and sat cross-legged on the couch, calming his mind. After a short while, Yi Xing's mind calmed down, and his state of mind was tranquil. He took out a stalk of eternity flower and consumed it. Borrowing the medicinal power of the eternity flower, he attacked the barrier of the 4th level of astral reaching realm. Currently, Yi Xing could only sense the barrier of the 4th level of astral reaching realm. The barrier was still extremely sturdy, and under the impact of the eternity flower's medicinal power, it didn't budge in the slightest. It seemed that wanting to break through the 4th level barrier and become a 4-star venerable wouldn't be an easy task. It would require a lot of time. In martial arts cultivation, the barrier of realms wasn't frightening. What was frightening was that one couldn't even sense the barrier. Even if one wanted to advance, one wouldn't have a goal or direction. No matter how hard one tried, one's cultivation wouldn't make any progress. And once one sensed the barrier of realms, one would have a goal. Next, breaking through was only a matter of time. Yixing consumed the Eternity Flower and activated the astral energy within his body. Using both methods, he continuously attacked the barrier of the fourth level of astral reaching realm. Time slowly passed. After 2 full days, the barrier finally showed a trace of damage, and a fine crack appeared. With the first crack, there would be a second. Before long, this door would be completely knocked open, allowing Yixing to advance another realm on the road of martial arts, becoming a 4-star venerable. A 21-year-old 4-star venerable was absolutely unprecedented in the history of the Star Continent. Yixing's victory in the life and death gambling battle, and his killing of 10 mid-level venerables from Meng family of Duyuan had shaken his reputation in the Dark Star sect. If he were to break through to the 4th-star venerable realm, it would definitely shock all the martial artists, and give rise to a heated discussion. If nothing unexpected happened, the result would definitely be like this. However, on the 3rd day of Yixing's seclusion, Wei Qingxian, who had been in seclusion ever since she broke through to the venerable realm, came out and snatched away Yixing's limelight. Last March, Wei Qingxian returned from the Outer Realm Star Continent. After 2 months of seclusion, she broke through to the venerable realm in May. When she became a venerable, everyone in the Dark Star sect sensed that frightening thunder calamity fluctuation. Afterwards, Wei Qingxian chose to go into seclusion once again. And now, it was already the 10,006th year of Dayuan calendar. In March, Wei Qingxian had been in seclusion for 10 whole months. However, after 10 short months, Wei Qingxian came out with a cultivation base of 4th-level astral reaching realm, a mid-level venerable. Wei Qingxian was only 19 years old this year. A 19-year-old 4-star venerable was unprecedented in the Star Continent. This made the experts of the Dark Star sect incomparably shocked. The news of Wei Qingxian coming out of seclusion and breaking through to the 4-star venerable realm swept through the entire Dark Star sect like a gust of wind. A 19-year-old 4-star venerable was even more unbelievable than Yixing defeating 10 mid-level venerables from Dayuan Meng family. In a certain courtyard of the Dark Star sect, Zhui Yupeng and Shimen Zhu sat opposite each other at a stone table. There were some dishes and wine on the table. The two drank, and from their faces, it was clear that they were not happy. Zhui Yupeng drank a cup of wine and said, "Who would have thought that the rumor of the demon star in troubled times was actually credible? Why isn't I, Zhui Yupeng, the demon star in troubled times, but Yixing, that low-born brat?" His tone was filled with jealousy and anger. Shimen Zhu hurriedly poured wine for Zhui Yupeng and said, "Young leader is a 3-star blue fate, a supreme genius of the Star Continent. Yixing must have encountered some kind of great opportunity to have such battle strength. But fate is different. His martial path is limited. Young leader, you don't have to worry. Yixing comes from a lowly background. No matter how high his fate is, it's hard to say if he can become a king in the future. But young leader is destined to become a 3-star king. He might even become the only 4-star king in the Star Continent. If you ask me, the one who killed the utmost being of Dameng and destroyed the Dayuan dynasty must be young leader. At that time, young leader will unify the world and establish a new dynasty, becoming the supreme king of the Star Continent. How glorious would that be? If Yixing destroys the Dayuan dynasty, then everything will be in chaos. Who will be the new supreme king then? Could it be Yixing? Pooey. What would you become then, young leader? Are we all going to be his subjects? That's impossible. There's a 6th update tonight. Let's fight. Please support us. Chapter 673. Because of Yixing, Shimen Zhu had suffered a loss at the hands of the Black Tiger King. From then on, he hated Yixing in his heart. No matter how great Yixing's fame was, Shimen Zhu did not feel happy at all. She only felt gloomy and unhappy. Shiminju's words were also his thoughts. He did not want to see Yixing overthrow the Deyuan dynasty. At that time, Yixing would become the most exalted king. The rest of the people in the Dark Star Church would all be Yixing's subjects. Furthermore, the ones who would be in charge of the Dark Star Church would definitely be the Dark Leopard King's people, and not the Shimin clan. Therefore, Shiminju would rather maintain the status quo. As a genius disciple of the Shimin clan, his position in the Dark Star sect was very high. In comparison, if Yixing overthrew the Deyuan dynasty and became the new supreme king, Shiminju might not be as free as he was now. At least, in Shiminju's eyes, Yixing was still a lowly brat. He could not accept that Yixing would become the new supreme king in the future. Although Zhui Yupeng did not like Yixing, he did not think as much as Shiminju. Now that he heard Shiminju's analysis, a thought suddenly arose in his mind. That's right. If Yixing really overthrew the Deyuan dynasty and became the new supreme king, what would I, Zhui Yupeng, become? Now, I am the young master of the Dark Star sect. In the future, I will definitely take over the position of the sect leader and control the entire Dark Star sect. In the Dark Star sect, I am high above. No one can compare to me. But if Yixing becomes the new supreme king and the Dark Star sect becomes the ruler of the Star Land, will I still be the young master? Will I still have any hope of becoming the sect leader? At that time, the Star Land will be controlled by Yixing and the Dark Star sect will be controlled by Yixing. I, Zhui Yupeng, will be nothing. I will have to listen to Yixing's whims. Zhui Yupeng felt extremely disgusted by Yixing's act of destroying the Great Yuan dynasty. Zhui Yupeng clenched his fist and said, "No. There must never be such a day. The Great Yuan dynasty must be overthrown by me, Zhui Yupeng. The new supreme king can only be me." Seeing Zhui Yupeng's performance, Shiminju was delighted. Shiminju raised his palm and placed it on his own neck. "Young cult master, do you want to kill Yixing?" Shiminju hated Yixing to the core. But now, he, Shiminju, could no longer do anything to Yixing. Even if he sought help from his clan, with the Black Biao King's protection, the Shimin clan could do nothing. However, if he could rope in Zhui Yupeng, Shiminju felt that there was still a chance. Although the Black Tiger King was the strongest expert in the Dark Star Church, the Dark Star Church still belonged to the Zhuo family. The foundation of the Dark Star Church was in the hands of the Zhuo family. In terms of individual strength, the Black Biao King was the strongest. But in terms of strength, the Black Biao King was no match for the Zhuo family. Shiminju did not dare to say those words to the Dark Star Church master. But he was familiar with the young cult master, Zhui Yupeng. In addition, Zhui Yupeng did not like Yixing. That was why he dared to fan the flames. Zhui Yupeng frowned slightly. Although he hated Yixing, he had never thought of killing Yixing. Zhui Yupeng thought for a while and said, "You know how important Yixing is to the left emissary. If we kill Yixing, the left emissary will be furious. He might betray the Dark Star Church and cause a split. It is not good for the Dark Star Church. Moreover, Yixing is just a lowly brat. Why should we kill him? Won't it dirty our hands? Humph. I will prove to everyone that I, Zhui Yupeng, am the only person who can overthrow the Great Yuan dynasty." Shiminju forced a laugh. He could only hide the killing intent in his heart and said, "Young cult master is so generous. That brat is lucky." Right then, Zhui Yupeng and Shiminju's communication beads lit up. They both took out their beads and read the information inside. Their eyes were filled with shock. Hiss. Shiminju gasped, "Wei Qingxian has come out. She is only 19 years old, and she has already reached the 4-star realm. Good. Good. Good." Shui Yupeng praised again and again. She's not even 19 years old, yet she broke through the astral reaching realm and became a venerable. This is already unprecedented. Who would have thought that she would become a 4-star venerable in just 10 short months? She's even more of a monster than Yixing. In my opinion, she's the real star of chaos. Shui Yupeng hated Yixing. After Yixing won the life and death battle, he was like the sun in the sky in the Dark Star sect. Therefore, Shui Yupeng was very depressed. Now, he suddenly heard the news that Wei Qingxian had come out of seclusion and had already reached the 4-star realm. Knowing that there was someone even more monstrous than Yixing, Shui Yupeng's sullen feelings immediately dissipated. More importantly, Shui Yupeng didn't hate Wei Qingxian. Not only that, he liked her a lot. Wei Qingxian returned to the Dark Star sect after returning from the Outer Star continent. Shui Yupeng saw Wei Qingxian for the first time, and was shocked by Wei Qingxuan's beauty. Shui Yupeng was the #1 handsome man in the Dark Star sect, and was also known as the #1 handsome man in the Star continent. He was very confident in his appearance, and had never taken a fancy to a woman. However, Wei Qingxian was an exception. When Shui Yupeng saw Wei Qingxian for the first time, he made a decision in his heart. Such a peerless beauty was a match made in heaven with him, Shui Yupeng. Unfortunately, after Wei Qingxian returned to the Dark Star sect, she started to cultivate in seclusion. After becoming a venerable, she continued to cultivate in seclusion. Until now, Shui Yupeng wanted to get closer to Wei Qingxian, but he never had the chance. Today, Wei Qingxian finally came out of seclusion. This news made Shui Yupeng very happy. Moreover, Wei Qingxian was already a 4-star venerable. This made Shui Yupeng even happier. Yixing, you are a 3-star venerable at the age of 21, and you can even defeat a 7-star venerable. You are indeed monstrous. However, I, Shui Yupeng, will have a woman who is even more monstrous than you. A 19-year-old 4-star venerable. Shui Yupeng thought in his heart, and his face bloomed with joy. Although Shui Yupeng loathed Yixing and called Yixing a low-born brat, he still felt that Yixing was very monstrous and that he couldn't be compared to him. Therefore, when Wei Qingxuan's performance became even more monstrous, and Shui Yupeng imagined Wei Qingxian as his woman, Shui Yupeng subconsciously felt that he had surpassed Yixing. Of course, he was in a good mood. Shui Yupeng saw Wei Qingxian as his and thought that with his identity as the young master of the Dark Star sect, it would be easy to get Wei Qingxian. However, he didn't know that Wei Qingxian was already Yixing's girlfriend. Shiminju, take your time drinking. I have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. When Shui Yupeng received news of Wei Qingxian, he immediately left Shiminju behind and headed for Duke Longqin's residence. When Shui Yupeng arrived at Duke Longqin's residence, Wei Qingxian and Duke Longqin were no longer there. Where did Duke Longqin take her? While Shui Yupeng was scratching his head, trying to figure out where Wei Qingxian had gone, Duke Longqin and Wei Qingxian had already arrived at the left emissary's residence. Complete. I can still push myself a little. I'll continue to beg for monthly votes and continue to work hard tomorrow. Chapter 674. A 4-star venerable at the age of 19. In the left emissary's residence, the Black Tiger King stared at Wei Qingxian in shock. If it weren't for Yixing, I would have thought you were the real fiend star of troubled times. After a pause, the Black Tiger King continued, Yixing is already 21 years old. With your cultivation speed in the venerable realm, it's hard to predict what level you'll reach in 2 years. In fact, you're even more monstrous than Yixing. Could it be that there's not just one fiend star of troubled times, but 2? Beside him, Queen Longqin said, when I sensed her breakthrough, I was still in disbelief. It wasn't until she came out of seclusion that I saw it with my own eyes that I realized it was the truth. A venerable under the age of 20 is unheard of on the starry continent, let alone a mid-level one. Such monstrous cultivation talent is rare even in mid-level continents. Queen Lanqin's tone was also astonished. Wei Qingxian herself didn't think that a 19-year-old 4-star venerable was anything special. She was the daughter of a venerable and possessed a purple destiny. She could naturally cultivate to become a true god. In this life, her father, Reincarnation Prime, had purposely reincarnated her on the Starry Continent, an ordinary low-level continent, to temper her. Therefore, her cultivation speed was much slower than in her previous life. Her cultivation speed in her previous life was truly monstrous. She became a martial saint at 10, a perfected person at 11, a venerable at 13, a king at 16, and a quasi-god at 20. In her previous life, she was already a 9-star king at 19. Now, she was only a 4-star venerable. Her cultivation speed was far from the same level. At different heights, one would have different views of things. Compared to a king, Wei Qingxuan's cultivation speed in her previous life was indeed shocking. A 16-year-old king, a 19-year-old 9-star king. How monstrous was that? However, in Reincarnation Prime's eyes, it wasn't good. It wasn't that Wei Qingxuan's cultivation speed wasn't fast enough, but that Wei Qingxuan's achievements in the martial way couldn't satisfy Reincarnation Prime. In her previous life, Wei Qingxuan's cultivation speed slowed after she became a quasi-god. Because of her weak foundation, she encountered great difficulties in the Star Nirvana realm. Although Wei Qingxian had the destiny of true god and would become a true god in the future, there was a huge gap between different true gods. Wei Qingxian couldn't possibly become a top true god. As for the position of supremacy, that was even more hopeless. In the end, Wei Qingxian died before she became a true god. Reincarnation Prime used the great Tao of reincarnation to let her live another life. He didn't nurture her like he did in her previous life. Instead, he let her be born in the most ordinary martial arts family on a low-level continent. Step by step, she advanced on the martial way and built a solid foundation. Although it was slower in the early stages, it was crucial for her later cultivation. Of course, this slow was only relative to Wei Qingxuan's past life. In reality, she had a violet heaven's will and a supreme bloodline. No matter where she was, her cultivation speed would always be faster than others. A 19-year-old 4-star venerable. To other martial artists, this was indeed extremely monstrous and abnormal. However, to Wei Qingxian, this was already a slightly slow cultivation speed. Yixing was 2 years older than Wei Qingxian, but he was able to keep pace with Wei Qingxian in terms of martial way cultivation. This was a true monstrous talent. Wei Qingxian was destined to stand at the pinnacle of the Star Continent in the future. Not only that, the Star Continent simply couldn't accommodate such a great god like her. Even the middle-grade continents couldn't accommodate her. Sooner or later, she would return to the high-grade continents and stand under the same sky as her father, the reincarnation sovereign. Therefore, destroying the Great Yuan dynasty was an easy task for Wei Qingxian. However, Si Kongyan of the Great Yuan dynasty could deduce that Yixing's existence would affect the foundation of the Great Yuan dynasty, but he couldn't deduce that Wei Qingxian was involved. Reincarnation Prime used the great way of reincarnation to descend Wei Qingxian into the Star Continent. Even the other primes didn't know about this method. Compared to Reincarnation Prime, Si Kongyan was nothing. Of course, it was impossible for him to deduce Reincarnation Prime's arrangements. Wei Qingxian changed the topic of her cultivation and said, "Lord Emissary, is Yixing here?" Wei Qingxian was brought to the Dark Star sect by Lanqin King and stayed in Lanqin King's elder mansion. Yixing was brought to the Dark Star sect by Black Biao King and stayed in Black Biao King's left emissary mansion. Both of them were now part of the Dark Star sect, but they weren't disciples of the Dark Star sect. They were considered geniuses nurtured outside the sect. Black Biao King and Yixing were familiar with each other. Of course, he knew about the relationship between Yixing and Wei Qingxian. He said, Brother Yixing is in seclusion to break through to the 4th star Venerable Realm. He should be out in a few days. Wei Qingxian said, then I'll stay in the mansion and wait for him. Is that okay? As Wei Qingxuan's memories awakened more and more, she understood more about her previous life. She didn't care much about the star continent anymore. However, Yixing was an exception. The two of them had gone through life and death together. They had indelible memories. Moreover, in her previous life, Wei Qingxian grew up under Reincarnation Prime's wings. Her status was high and there were many men who worshipped her like a goddess. However, none of them dared to pursue her. In her 2 lives, Yixing was the first and only man who walked into Wei Qingxuan's heart. Naturally, she couldn't forget him. Ever since she broke through to the Venerable Realm and her memories awakened again, Wei Qingxian thought for a long time and made a decision. She didn't dare to reveal her secret to others, but she felt that she shouldn't do the same to Yixing. She should let Yixing know the truth. Therefore, after she came out of seclusion, the first thing she did was look for Yixing. She had to have a good talk with Yixing. She had to tell Yixing about her identity and that she would definitely leave the star continent in the future. As for their relationship, she had to let Yixing know the truth before he made a choice. King Lanqin glanced at Wei Qingxian in surprise. Her elder mansion wasn't far from here. It would take less than half an incense stick to burn to get here. However, Wei Qingxian had chosen to stay here and wait for Yixing to come out of seclusion. It was obvious that Yixing was very important to her. Black Biao King naturally wouldn't refuse. Of course. You and Brother Yixing have a close relationship. You can call me Brother Black Biao, just like Brother Yixing. King Lanqin bid farewell to Black Biao King while Wei Qingxian stayed in the left emissary's mansion to wait for Yixing to come out of seclusion. Elder Lanqin. King Lanqin returned to her mansion. Shui Yupeng was still waiting there. Young hierarch, why have you come to my mansion? King Lanqin had already heard the servant's report and knew that Shui Yupeng was here. She wasn't surprised. You're finally back. Ah. Where's junior sister Qingxian? Didn't she come back with you? Shui Yupeng asked in surprise. Qingxian. She's staying in the left emissary's mansion. Why are you looking for Qingxian? King Lanqin asked. Ah. Why is junior sister Qingxian staying in the left emissary's mansion? Shui Yupeng ignored King Lanqin's question and asked in surprise. Yixing is in seclusion to become a 4-star venerable. Qingxian is waiting for him to come out. Waiting for him to come out. Waiting for him to come out. King Lanqin's voice resounded in Shui Yupeng's mind. Shui Yupeng's heart instantly shattered. Chapter 675. Left Star Emissary's Mansion. Ever since the first crack appeared on the realm barrier, the second one slowly appeared, and then the third. After 2 days, the cracks on the barrier were already densely packed. The entire barrier was on the verge of collapse, as if it would shatter into pieces in the next moment. Boom! After a few more fierce attacks, Yixing's body finally emitted a sound. The realm barrier was completely destroyed, and a comfortable feeling spread throughout his body. From all directions, countless star power rushed into Yixing's body, forming a huge star power whirlpool, like a funnel. All of a sudden, Yixing's star power exploded. It had undergone a qualitative change, becoming even more powerful. Yixing's cultivation had broken through to the 4th level of the astral reaching realm, becoming a mid-level reverend. With the breakthrough, not only had the star power strengthened, Yixing's perception of the natural yuan qi had also become clearer. Compared to when he was a 3-star reverend, his strength had increased by leaps and bounds. If Yixing were to fight Meng Yuanting again, the fight would not be so difficult and intense. he would be able to kill Meng Yuanting easily. Breaking through to the 4th level of the astral reaching realm was the breakthrough from a low-level reverend to a mid-level reverend. It caused a huge fluctuation of star power. Many experts had sensed this fluctuation, and knew that someone had broken through. In the left star emissary's mansion, Black Tiger King and Wei Qingxian naturally sensed it the clearest. He has also broken through to the 4th star reverend, the same cultivation as me. I hope he can keep up with my footsteps. Only then will he be able to get father's approval. Wei Qingxian revealed a smile as she thought to herself. A 21-year-old 4-star reverend. Although he is not as good as Wei Qingxian, other than Wei Qingxian, there is no one like him in the star continent. Good, very good. As long as Yi Xing and Wei Qingxian grow up, the Great Yuan dynasty will cease to exist. Black Tiger King sensed Yi Xing's breakthrough and was very happy. The Black Biao King and Wei Qingxian both rushed towards Yi Xing's courtyard. The two of them arrived at the same time and entered the courtyard. Yi Xing walked out of his room and saw the Black Biao King and Wei Qingxian in the courtyard. Qingxian. Yi Xing's eyes lit up when he saw Wei Qingxian. The two of them hadn't seen each other for nearly a year and a half since they parted on the Grand Arena. Yi Xing quickly walked up to the two and greeted the Black Biao King, Brother Black Biao. Yi Xing. Wei Qingxuan's eyes lit up. She was happy to see Yi Xing. The Black Biao King slapped a palm onto Yi Xing's shoulder and said, "Good, good. You and Qingxian are both 4-star venerables at such a young age. Ha! You're too monstrous. When you grow up, the end of the Great Yuan dynasty will come." 4-star venerables? Yi Xing's expression changed as he looked over at Wei Qingxian. When he first saw Wei Qingxian, Yi Xing was only happy. He didn't notice Yi Xing's cultivation. Now that he looked carefully, Wei Qingxuan's cultivation aura was indeed at the 4th level of astral reaching realm. She was a true 4-star venerable. Wei Qingxian faintly smiled and said, "It was all thanks to those eternity flowers that I was able to reach the 4th level of astral reaching realm so quickly." Yi Xing nodded. The Yi in Extreme Flower was one of the reasons why his cultivation had risen so quickly. When the Black Biao King saw the two of them flirting with each other, his eyes lit up. He chuckled and said, "Yi Xing, I'm relieved to see that your cultivation has reached the 4th level of astral reaching realm. You two haven't seen each other for a long time, so you must have a lot to talk about. I won't disturb you. You two can talk." Then, the Black Biao King laughed heartily and left the courtyard. Yi Xing and Wei Qingxian looked at the Black Biao King's back and exchanged a glance. Their faces reddened, and their heartbeats sped up. "Let's talk inside." Yi Xing was a bit more courageous, and took the initiative to hold Wei Qingxuan's jade-like hand. Wei Qingxian didn't take her hand back. She faintly nodded and walked side by side with Yi Xing. The two entered the room and sat down. "Long time no see. How have you been?" Yi Xing opened with a meaningless greeting. Wei Qingxian had always been in closed-door cultivation. How could she be well? She nodded and said, "I'm fine." The two hadn't seen each other for a long time. They seemed to have 1,000 things they wanted to say to each other. However, when they were face to face, they didn't know what to say. The two looked at each other, and all their emotions were reflected in their eyes. Looking at that perfect face, Yi Xing's heart was moved. His heartbeat suddenly sped up, and a sliver of emotion flashed through his eyes. He tilted his head forward slightly. That sliver of emotion was extremely secretive, but when their eyes met, their senses were extremely sensitive. Wei Qingxian immediately sensed Yi Xing's feelings. Wei Qingxuan's heartbeat also sped up. She gently bit her lower lip and closed her eyes. This was clearly a response. The joy in Yi Xing's heart surged with a whoosh. He tilted his head forward slightly and pressed his lips against hers. When their lips met, both of them felt like they had been electrocuted. Their heartbeats were the most intense at this moment, and their breathing became hurried as well. Their lips slowly parted. That wonderful taste was even more pleasurable than a breakthrough in cultivation. Yixing wanted to kiss her again, but Wei Qingxian leaned back to avoid him. Wei Qingxuan's face flushed. She said, "I have something to tell you." Yixing looked at Wei Qingxian with sparkling eyes. He said, "Go on, I'm listening. Be serious." Wei Qingxian pushed Yixing's head to a safe distance. She said, "What I want to tell you is very important. It's about my origins." Yixing restrained his expression. He said, "Origins? Aren't you from the Wei family of Celestial Azure City?" Wei Qingxian rolled her eyes at Yixing. She said, "That's only on the surface. Because of my existence, the Wei family obtained a lot of resources. Even now, they only have one martial saint. Do you think that if I were a disciple of the Wei family, I would be able to become a 4-star venerable now?" Yixing thought carefully and shook his head. Strictly speaking, his identity as a disciple of the Ya family was only on the surface. If he didn't have the super brain and the black hole astrology, he would be nothing now. It seemed that Wei Qingxian was the same as him. She had her own secrets. Now, Wei Qingxian wanted to share this secret with him. This moved Yixing. He had never mentioned his secret to Wei Qingxian, nor did he plan to mention it to Wei Qingxian. He didn't expect that she would share her secret with him. She would only share her secret with someone who was extremely close to her and trusted her. Yixing was naturally touched. Wei Qingxian said, "You're familiar with the Black Biao King. You should know that the King realm isn't the end, right?" Yixing nodded. He said, "Yes. Above the King realm is the quasi-god. Above the quasi-god is the true god. Above the true god is the legendary honorable." Wei Qingxuan's expression turned serious. She said, "Listen carefully. I am the daughter of a honorable." Yixing was immediately stunned. He stared at Wei Qingxian, dumbfounded. Honorable. Honorable's daughter. Chapter 676. That even in the notes left behind by the founder of the Dark Star sect, Supremes were legendary existences. It could be seen that even the Dark Star Temple, a 5-star force on a high-class continent, didn't have any Supremes. Now, Wei Qingxian said in front of Yixing that she was the daughter of a Supremes. How could he not be dumbfounded? He was completely stunned. Wei Qingxian had already expected Yixing's reaction. She repeated word by word, "Yes, I'm the daughter of a Supremes." Yixing was still shocked. How is that possible? Supremes are legendary existences on high-class continents. Why would they leave their daughter in a small place like Celestial City? Wei Qingxian looked at Yixing. "You don't believe what I said?" Yixing nodded. I do. It's just that I'm too surprised." "Why is that?" Wei Qingxian said, "I'm the daughter of a Supremes. Do you still dare to like me? Do you dare to want me?" "Ah." Yixing was slightly surprised. "Why wouldn't I dare?" Wei Qingxian smiled. She was in a good mood. "All right, since you dare, I'll tell you everything I know." Wei Qingxian spoke, and Yixing listened. After a long time, Wei Qingxian told Yixing all the information about her past life that she had awakened from her memories. Yixing was amazed. It turned out that Wei Qingxian had lived a second life. He had always heard that people couldn't live after death. Afterlife and next life didn't exist. But today, Yixing saw someone who had lived a second life. If there really was a next life, then there really was an afterlife. However, without the memories of the previous life, it couldn't be considered a second life. It was just a new life. Only with the memories of the previous life could it be considered a second life. In this way, Wei Qingxian was living a second life, and so was Yixing. Samsara Supremes let Wei Qingxian live a second life with the great way of reincarnation, and let Wei Qingxian be born in an ordinary warrior family. Unexpectedly, she could still retain her bloodline and astrology. This method was really incredible. After listening to Wei Qingxuan's story, Yixing felt that coming to the Star Continent and living a second life didn't seem so special. Wei Qingxian said, "I've told you everything I know. My father is Reincarnation Supremacy, the master of Reincarnation Palace. Mother and I perished together, sealed in ice by my father, waiting for me to become a martial saint before I can save her life. So, my goal of martial arts is to reach the peak of martial arts and become a Supremes. The Star Continent is just my starting point. One day, I will go back to the Samsara Palace and find my father. Yixing, if you still dare to like me and be with me, then you can't just stay in this small place like the Star Continent. You have to go to a wider world and walk side by side with me on the road of martial arts. If you can't keep up with me, although I don't mind, I'm worried that my father won't approve of you. Since you like me and want me, you have to get my father's approval. So, you must work hard." Yixing touched his head and felt a little troubled. It was not easy to get the approval of a Supremes. Even if he didn't become a Supremes, he had to at least become a true god to be qualified to get the approval of a Supremes. But now, Yixing was only a 4-star venerable. Not to mention a true god, even a quasi-god was a very distant existence. Seeing Yixing silent, Wei Qingxian said angrily, "Why, are you afraid?" "Afraid?" Yixing immediately shook his head. If he didn't have the black hole astrology, he was indeed worried that he wouldn't be able to keep up with Wei Qingxuan's footsteps in the future. After all, Wei Qingxian had a purple true god's mandate. Yixing's current 9-star king's mandate was heaven-defying in the Star Continent, but in front of a purple destiny, it was nothing. However, Yixing had the black hole astrology and could devour other people's mandates for his own use. What Yixing lacked was a big stage. As long as he had a big enough stage, he was confident that he would be able to obtain a higher level of heavenly fate. He would be able to walk further on the martial path and reach the peak. Yixing grabbed Wei Qingxuan's hands and said seriously, "Don't be afraid. I might not be in your father's eyes now, but one day, I will use my achievements to make him value me and obtain his recognition." Wei Qingxian laughed happily and said, "Okay, I'm worried that you will be scared by my father's supremacy and not dare to prove yourself to him. As long as you are willing to work hard for me and my father's recognition, no matter what your final achievements are, you will always be my man." After saying that, Wei Qingxian took the initiative to lean forward and kissed Yixing on the lips. This time, the two kissed for a few breaths of time before moving away. Their faces were full of joy and excitement. Yixing lifted Wei Qingxuan's face and said, "Actually, I also have a secret to share with you. A descendant of the Ya family is only my identity on the surface." Wei Qingxian confided in Yixing without holding anything back. This completely moved Yixing's heart. He also chose to share his own secret with her. "Ah." Wei Qingxian was startled and said, "Are you also the son of a supremacy?" Yixing laughed and said, "I am the son of a supremacy of Earth, the son of Earth." Wei Qingxian said in surprise, "Supremacy of Earth? What a strange name." Yixing laughed and said, "Okay, there is no supremacy of Earth. Earth is a planet where no one cultivates martial arts. Everyone is an ordinary mortal, but there is very advanced technology. The technology there can explore the stars and kill kings without a problem." Wei Qingxian showed great interest and said, "Technology? There is actually such a magical thing. How is it possible for a mortal to kill a king?" On the star continent, it was impossible for a mortal to kill a king. There was no such weapon at all. Moreover, even if a mortal obtained a divine weapon that could kill a king, they would not be able to move it and unleash its power. They would still not be able to kill a king. However, it was different on Earth. Even if a king had the power to destroy mountains, no matter how powerful he was, could he be more powerful than a missile? Even if a king flew into the sky, a missile could still shoot him down. When he first arrived on the star continent, Yixing often thought about Earth. However, the more he went, the less he thought about it. In the last 2 years, he had almost sealed Earth in his mind. Now that he talked about it with Wei Qingxian, Yixing felt as if he was talking about the glory of his hometown. Yixing said, "This is only in terms of martial arts. In terms of daily use, there are even more magical things. The communication beads on the star continent can transmit information, but the distance is limited. On Earth, there is also such a tool that can transmit not only sound but also images." Wei Qingxuan's eyes were full of yearning and said, "I really want to go there and see. How can I go to Earth?" Yixing's excited expression immediately cooled down and said, "Sigh. I don't know what happened, but I came to the star continent and can't go back." Chapter 677. In the following days, Wei Qingxian started to live in the Left Star Emissary Mansion, in the same courtyard as Yixing. Of course, the two lived in different rooms. Although the two had confirmed their relationship, they knew that it was not the right time for them to live together. Other than sleeping, when the two of them were in different rooms, every day, the two of them would pair up and cultivate together. When Yixing was cultivating his archery skills, Wei Qingxian would be cultivating martial arts on the side. While cultivating, the two would also exchange their experiences. They were very happy and had a lot of fun. The news of Wei Qingxian becoming a 4-star venerable had already spread throughout the Dark Star sect. And the news of Yixing breaking through and coming out of seclusion had also spread throughout the Dark Star sect. All of a sudden, Yixing and Wei Qingxian became the two most famous people in the Dark Star sect. The two were always together. Moreover, Wei Qingxian had moved into the Left Star Emissary Mansion for Yixing. All the martial artists in the Dark Star sect knew that the two were a couple. The two's cultivation speed was extremely monstrous. Naturally, the news of them being together had become a legend. Of course, not everyone thought that it was a legend. For example, Zhui Yupeng. Zhui Yupeng had fantasized about pursuing Wei Qingxian and making Wei Qingxian his woman. Only then would he feel proud in front of Yixing. However, Wei Qingxian had already become a couple with Yixing. This shattered Zhui Yupeng's fantasy before it could become a reality. Regarding Yixing and Wei Qingxian being together, Zhui Yupeng only felt jealousy and heartbreak. However, Zhui Yupeng's jealousy and heartbreak were useless. Yixing and Wei Qingxian were still together, and the story spread throughout the Dark Star sect. Time flew by quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was already August. After 5 months of cultivation, Yixing and Wei Qingxuan's cultivation bases had both stabilized to peak level 4 astral reaching realm. On this day, He Biaowang happily found Yixing and Wei Qingxian, and said, "Let me tell you guys a piece of good news." The Black Biao King smiled mysteriously and excitedly. Yixing asked in surprise, "What good news is it? Why are you so happy?" Black Biao King said, "Our sect has a treasure land that is connected to the dimensional void. Every few decades or centuries, a huge amount of pure star power would pour out from the dimensional void, which is extremely beneficial for astral reaching realm warriors." Back then, the founder of the sect had established the Dark Star sect here precisely because of this treasure land. This treasure land is called the Cultivation Saint Pond. Yixing and Wei Qingxian looked at each other and said, "What does it have to do with us? Could it be that we can enter the Cultivation Saint Pond to cultivate?" The Black Tiger King nodded with a smile. That's right. In order to maintain the effects of cultivation, only 10 people can enter the cultivation Saint Pond every time the power of the stars surges out from Origin Void. These 10 people have always been the 10 strongest venerables of the younger generation. After some discussion, Yu and Qingxian can both enter the cultivation Saint Pond. Yixing and Wei Qingshuan's eyes brightened. They had already reached the peak of 4-star realm, but breaking through to 5-star realm was still very difficult. It would take a lot of time. If he could enter the cultivation Saint Pond to cultivate, then breaking through to the 5-star venerable realm would not be difficult. If the effects of the cultivation Saint Pond were good, then he could even consolidate a lot of his cultivation after breaking through to the 5-star venerable realm. Yixing said, "When can we enter the cultivation Saint Pond?" Black Biao King said, "Soon. The star power gushing out from the dimensional void will merge with the water of the cultivation Saint Pond. It won't take more than a few days. Prepare yourselves. I'll call you when it's time." Although the cultivation sacred pond was a treasured place, there were too few times when one could cultivate. The shortest time was a few decades, and the longest time was 100 years. A large amount of star force would only appear once in the dimensional void. Therefore, the majority of the disciples of the Dark Star sect would not encounter the opening of the cultivation Saint Pond when they were in the golden stage of cultivation. Encountering the opening of the cultivation Saint Pond during the golden stage of cultivation was a great fortune that could only be encountered by chance. This time, not only Yixing and Wei Qingxian, but also 8 other venerables of the younger generation of the Dark Star sect were lucky this time. The golden stage of cultivation for venerables was under the age of 35. As a 5-star power, the Dark Star sect had a lot of people. There were many venerables of the younger generation, and the ones ranked at the top were not weak. Among them, the one with the highest cultivation was an 8-star venerable lord. He was a disciple of the Zhuo family, and his name was Zhui Yuandong. He was already 34 years old. If he had delayed for another year, this great fortune would have nothing to do with him. It had to be said that he was very lucky. Next, there were 2 7-star venerables. They were disciples of the Zhuo family and the Shimen family. The Zhuo family's young master, Zhui Yupeng, was 31 years old. The Shimen family's Shimen Song was 34 years old. Also, there were 5 6-star venerables. One from the Zhuo family, one from the Shimen family, one from the Lin family, one from the He family, and one from the Lan family. They were all over 30 years old. As for 5-star venerables, there were naturally some as well. However, there were only 10 spots. Although Yixing and Wei Qingxian were only 4-star venerables, they were too young. One was 21 years old, and the other was 19 years old. Under the Black Biao King's nomination, the upper echelons of the Dark Star sect agreed to include Yixing and Wei Qingxian in the 10 spots. Therefore, with the addition of an 8-star venerable lord, 2 7-star venerables, and 5 6-star venerables, the 10 spots were filled. Regarding this, some of the younger 5-star venerables were dissatisfied. For example, Shimen Zhu was a 5-star venerable. He was a disciple of the Shimen family. If there were 2 spots among the 5-star venerables, he should be one. However, it was useless even if some people were dissatisfied. This matter had already been approved by the upper echelons of the Dark Star sect, and no one could change it. 5 days later, the Black Biao King found Yixing and Wei Qingxian again. He said, "The astral energy in the void dimension has stopped. It's time for the cultivation Saint Pool to open. Follow me." Yixing and Wei Qingxian followed behind the Black Biao King. Not long after, they arrived at a valley between 2 mountain ridges. Some of the upper echelons of the Dark Star sect had already gathered here, as well as some of the younger generation venerables. Although they had stayed in the Dark Star sect for 5 months, Yixing and Wei Qingxian had basically been cultivating in the left emissary's residence. Even when they were cultivating their archery skills, they were only at the back mountain of the residence. Therefore, Yixing and Wei Qingxian did not know many of the younger generation venerables. However, there was no one among the younger generation venerables who did not know Yixing and Wei Qingxian. When Yixing sized up the younger generation venerables, he immediately felt a sharp gaze shooting towards him. Yixing met this gaze. It was the gaze of the young sect master, Shui Yupeng. Shui Yupeng's gaze was extremely aggressive. Yixing could feel that Shui Yupeng did not like him. This guy can't be holding a grudge against me because of the Dark Star Pagoda, right? That would be too petty. Yixing thought to himself. Today's monthly votes are very poor. I will continue to write the 5th and 6th chapters. Brothers, I beg for monthly votes. I beg for passion. Chapter 678. Not long after, another elder came over with 2 young venerables. Now, all 10 of them were present. The valley ahead was enveloped by a formation. The Dark Star sect's leader walked to the entrance of the formation and said, "The cultivation sacred pond is located in the depths of the valley ahead. The spring water in the cultivation sacred pond already contains a large amount of astral power. You can directly absorb it from the sacred pond to improve your cultivation. The cultivation sacred pond is divided into 10 regions. The 10 of you will each have a region. The area of each region is the same, and there is no difference in size. Once you enter, you are not allowed to fight for a spot. Do you hear me?" Yixing and the others nodded at the same time. "We hear you." The Dark Star sect's leader stepped aside and said, "Go in. I wish you all a breakthrough in your cultivation." The entrance of the formation opened, and Yixing and the others entered the valley in a single file. After entering the formation, everyone's vision became clear. They immediately saw the cultivation sacred pond in the depths of the valley. Although it was called a pond, it was not small. It was close to 50 meters in radius. It was practically a small lake. There were stone walls in the cultivation sacred pond, dividing the entire pond into 10 fan-shaped regions. There were 10 people who entered, so there was a total of 10 regions. There was nothing to fight for. Each person could have a region. Yixing and Wei Qingxian chose 2 adjacent regions and sat down beside the cultivation sacred pond. Soon, the 10 of them chose their own regions. Shui Yupeng's blade-like gaze was cast over again. Yixing looked to the right and saw Shui Yupeng staring at him coldly from more than 10 meters away. "Are you crazy?" Yixing thought to himself as he glared at him fiercely. The smell of gunpowder between the 2 of them immediately grew stronger. When their gazes collided, there was a feeling of electricity in the air. Shui Yupeng snorted softly and revealed a contemptuous smile before retracting his gaze. Since the other party did not take the initiative to provoke him, Yixing naturally could not be bothered to lower himself to his level. He also retracted his gaze, restrained his distracting thoughts, and calmed his mind. Soon, everyone began to circulate their cultivation techniques to absorb the energy. The power of the stars surging from the dimensional void was affected by the formation and had nowhere to spread. Instead, it merged into the spring water of the cultivation Saint Pond, causing the spring water to be like a spiritual spring. Martial artists could directly extract the power of the stars from the spring water. If Yixing used the black hole astral form to devour the power of the stars, it would cause too much of a commotion and the devouring range would be too wide, affecting others. Therefore, Yixing only used the falling star art. After becoming a 4-star venerate, Yixing changed the 7th level of the profound rank low-grade falling star art to the 3rd level of the profound rank mid-grade falling star art. Then, he cultivated it to the 4th level. The speed at which he absorbed the power of the stars was extremely fast, comparable to that of a 7-star venerate. However, Yixing's absorption speed was not as fast as Wei Qingxian and Shui Yupeng's. Wei Qingxuan's cultivation technique was the divine grade minor reincarnation art. Although it was only a profound grade minor reincarnation art, it was still a divine grade minor reincarnation art. Yixing's falling star art was only a profound grade minor reincarnation art. Whether it was the strength of the stars or the speed at which they absorbed the power of the stars, Wei Qingxian was faster. As for Zhui Yupeng, he was a 7-star venerate. Furthermore, he had cultivated his profound grade mid-grade minor reincarnation art to the 6th level, which was better than many 8-star venerates. Of course, his absorption speed was faster than Yixing's profound grade mid-grade falling star art's 4th level. At the beginning of the absorption, everyone was fine. Yixing could feel that the power of the stars he absorbed from the spring water was extremely pure. It was very effective in raising his cultivation. He felt very comfortable. Yixing judged that absorbing the power of the stars in the spring water would be more than enough for him to break through to the 5-star venerate realm. He was overjoyed. Time passed slowly. After an hour, the fluctuation of a breakthrough came from the left. Wei Qingxuan's minor reincarnation art was indeed domineering. In just an hour, she had absorbed nearly half of the power of the stars in the spring water. She was the first to break through to the 5-star venerate realm. In terms of cultivation speed, Wei Qingxian was actually faster than Yixing. In 5 months, both of them had consolidated their cultivation to the peak of the 4th level. However, Wei Qingxian was closer to the 5-star venerate realm. Now, Wei Qingxuan's speed of absorbing the spring water in the Saint Pond was faster than Yixing's. Of course, she had broken through to the 5-star venerate realm earlier than Yixing. When Wei Qingxian broke through, everyone sensed the fluctuation of the star power. They looked at Wei Qingxian with envy. However, now that everyone was absorbing the power of the stars in the cultivation Saint Spring, the mist above the spring covered the entire cultivation Saint Spring. It was a vast expanse of white, but no one could see each other. They could only judge that Wei Qingxian had made a breakthrough based on the position of the fluctuations of the stars. For astral reaching realm warriors, it would be extremely difficult for them to increase their cultivation. Although the cultivation Saint Spring contained a lot of star power, not everyone who entered the cultivation Saint Spring would be able to make a breakthrough. After all, different cultivation levels would require different amounts of star power, and the difficulty of making a breakthrough would be different as well. About a quarter of an hour later, another surge of astral power showed up, indicating a breakthrough. The gazes of all the martial artists turned towards Yixing's location. Although they couldn't see his figure, they knew that he had also broken through to the 5th level of the astral reaching realm, becoming a 5-star venerable. Yixing felt a sense of comfort coming from his soul. His astral energy was strengthened once more, and there was a qualitative improvement. His strength had also increased by quite a bit. Yixing had only absorbed half of the star power in the pond. It seemed that after absorbing the remaining half, his cultivation would be able to consolidate to the late stage of the 5-star venerate realm. Breaking through to the 5-star venerate realm was Yixing's goal. Now that he had accomplished it, he could consolidate his cultivation. Yixing was very satisfied with this trip to the Saint Pond, and the corner of his mouth raised into a smile. Time continued to pass, and Yixing continued to absorb the star power to consolidate his cultivation. Soon, another fluctuation of star power appeared. This fluctuation was extremely intense. Someone had broken through to the 7-star venerate realm. It was a breakthrough from the mid-stage to the high stage. Yixing sensed the location of the astral power fluctuation and knew that it was He Gang who had become a 7-star High Lord. He was the most outstanding descendant of the He family. Being able to break through to the 7-star venerate realm so quickly showed that He Gang's cultivation had already reached the limit of the 6-star venerate realm. Therefore, he was one step ahead of the others. Feeling the others' cultivation breakthroughs one after another, Zhui Yupeng was very gloomy. He wanted to use the opportunity of the Saint Pond to break through to the 8-star venerate realm in one go. However, his cultivation was originally at the late stage of the 7-star Venerate realm, which was too far from the 8-star Venerate realm. Now, he had almost absorbed all the star power in this area, but only managed to consolidate his cultivation to the peak of the 7-star Venerate realm. He was still a little bit away from becoming an 8-star supremacy. Furthermore, according to Zhui Yupeng's estimation, he would need a large amount of star energy to break through to the 8-star supremacy realm. The star energy in the region before him was probably not enough for him to break through. It's already early in the morning, but even if I stay up late, I will still finish the 6th update. Please vote. Chapter 679. Zhui Yupeng's eyes flashed with rage when he realized he could not break through to the 8-star supremacy level. Zhui Yupeng looked at Yixing's pool. Yixing's absorption speed was much slower than Zhui Yupeng's. Zhui Yupeng had almost finished absorbing all the star power in his area, while Yixing had only absorbed about 60% of it. Zhui Yupeng hated Yixing to begin with. Now, when he thought about how he wouldn't be able to break through to the 8-star Exalt Lord realm with the power of the stars in his territory, the hatred and brutality in his heart erupted at the same time. He might as well go all the way. He would snatch Yixing's astral energy and become an 8-star supremacy. In the golden stage of cultivation, the earlier one broke through to the next level, the more potential he had. This opportunity was not to be missed. Zhui Yupeng's mind was like a demon that could not be stopped. Whoosh! Zhui Yupeng's astral energy was activated. He grabbed at the air, and a big astral hand reached out and grabbed a large amount of star power in front of Yixing. Yixing furrowed his brows. Someone was trying to snatch away the power of stars that belonged to him. Yixing did not have much time to think. Zhui Yupeng had already reached out a second astral hand. Humph! Yixing snorted and punched out. The fist aura rushed forward. Bang! The fist aura hit the astral hand, and there was a loud explosion. Yixing's punch was not as strong as Zhui Yupeng's astral hand. The fist aura was shattered, but the astral hand only shook. However, the astral hand shook, and the star power that the astral hand had grabbed fell. Yixing knew it was Zhui Yupeng who had grabbed the astral hand. He was about to scold him when a strong wind blew. Boom! Zhui Yupeng's second attempt at grabbing the power of stars had been dispersed by Yixing. Zhui Yupeng was furious. His next attack was not to grab the power of stars in the pool. Instead, it was aimed directly at Yixing. Zhui Yupeng not only wanted to snatch Yixing's star power, but he also wanted to hit him. This infuriated Yixing. 9 Heavens Astral Travel Technique. Yixing's figure flashed like a stream of light, and the palm landed on the ground. The entire valley shook, and the pool water surged. The rest of the martial artists were all shocked. If it were not for the fact that the cultivation Saint Pond was made of special stones and was reinforced by formations, Zhui Yupeng's palm strike probably would have created a deep pit and destroyed the pond. Whoosh! Starlight soared into the sky, turning into a flaming star. The horrifying power instantly evaporated the water above the cultivation Saint Pond, opening up the vision of all the cultivators. Yixing had the fire star above his head. Fire origin energy gathered around his body, making him seem like a messenger of fire. He angrily shouted, "Zhui Yupeng, are you looking for a beating?" Zhui Yupeng stood up, his demeanor elegant. He said, "Yixing, your greed is insatiable. Isn't the star power in your own area enough for you to absorb? You even secretly absorbed my star power. How dare you? The one I want to hit is you." Zhui Yupeng calmed down. He knew that he was in the wrong for snatching Yixing's star power. So, he took the initiative to throw a bucket of shit at Yixing's head. Just when Yixing was about to explode with anger, Zhui Yupeng made things up out of nothing and wronged him first. This made Yixing even angrier. Yixing angrily shouted, "Bullshit. Not only did you steal my star power, you even hit me when I tried to stop you. Don't think you're amazing just because you're a 7-star venerable lord. In my eyes, you're just a fart. I can suppress you anytime. If it was any other time, Yi Xing would not have said such words. However, Yi Xing was indeed furious. Someone had snatched your things and even hit you. Even a clay bodhisattva's anger was about to be ignited. Shui Yupeng sneered. Yi Xing, I know you're the fiend star of chaos. You're strong, but don't be too arrogant. In the Dark Star sect, I, Shui Yupeng, am the young sect master. The person who will take over the position of sect master in the future will also be me. Others might take you seriously, but I, Shui Yupeng, don't care about you at all. You snatched my astral energy, and you even dare to say that you can suppress me. Come. Do you think I, Shui Yupeng, am like those trash from the Grand Yuan dynasty? Do you think I can't beat a lowly brat like you? The others looked at Yi Xing and Shui Yupeng in surprise. Each of them had their own area, so they were surprised and puzzled that they could quarrel over such a small area. Just now, the white mist had shrouded the entire cultivation Saint Pond. Everyone had been wholeheartedly absorbing the power of the stars to cultivate. Shui Yupeng didn't try to grab their power of stars, so of course they didn't sense it. So now, the two people arguing were accusing each other of stealing their star power. It was as if a battle was about to erupt. This caused the other cultivators to look at each other in dismay. They didn't know who was right and who was wrong. However, there were differences between people. The other two venerables of the Zhuo family naturally believed Shui Yupeng's words. Their gazes at Yi Xing were burning with fury. I believe in Yi Xing. He won't steal from others. Wei Qingxian directly expressed her opinion. Of course, she believed in Yi Xing and didn't believe in Shui Yupeng. He Gang, who had just become a 7-star venerable lord, was a disciple of the He family. Because of the Black Biao King, he naturally stood on Yi Xing's side. He Gang stood up and walked over to Yi Xing's side. He said, I also believe in Yi Xing, I believe in the young sect master. I also believe in the young sect master. The two venerables of the Shimen family fell silent. The two venerables of the Zhuo family also walked over to Shui Yupeng's side. The current situation had changed. Two venerables stood on Yi Xing's side, 4 on Shui Yupeng's side. The remaining venerables of the Lin family and Lan family looked at each other in dismay. They didn't know who was right and who was wrong. They didn't know which side to stand on. Those standing on Yi Xing's side were Wei Qingxian, a 5-star venerable lord, and He Gang, a 7-star venerable lord. As for those standing on Shui Yupeng's side, Shui Yuandong was an 8-star venerable lord, Shimen Song was a 7-star venerable lord, and the other two were 6-star venerables. Although Yi Xing was furious, he quickly calmed down and thought about it. No one had seen what had happened just now. Even if they caused a ruckus, they wouldn't be able to do anything to Shui Yupeng since they didn't have any evidence. Moreover, Shui Yupeng was the young sect master. The Zhuo family was the strongest in the Dark Star sect. Most likely, the Zhuo family would trust Shui Yupeng more than Yi Xing. Thus, there was no point in causing a ruckus. Although Yi Xing was infuriated, there was nothing he could do unless he beat Shui Yupeng up. But looking at the current situation, if they were to fight, it would probably be a group battle. Yi Xing took a deep breath. He thought to himself, I'll just treat it as stepping on dog shit. I'll just endure it. Don't tell me that if I'm unhappy after stepping on dog shit, I'll step on it again. I'll just endure it. Yi Xing coldly looked at Shui Yupeng and said, let's forget about what happened just now. I can't be bothered to lower myself to the level of a scum like you. However, there won't be a next time. If there is a next time, I won't give face to anyone, let alone you, the young sect master. I will only use my fish to greet you. It's 6 chapters again. I only need the second and last chapters on the 8th of September to make up for it. After that, I will add the monthly votes for the month of July. I want to maintain this quality and maintain 6 chapters a day. However, I need strength. Brothers, please give me a monthly vote. Thank you. Chapter 680. Yixing swallowed his anger and wanted to leave the matter at that. However, Zhui Yupeng did not give up and said, "Leave it at that. You secretly absorbed my star energy and you dare to say that you're leaving it at that." Yixing raised his eyebrows and said, "Zhui Yupeng, I've already given you face. Don't be so shameless. Impudent." The Zhuo family's 8th-star supremacy, Zhui Yuandong, shouted, "How dare you be so arrogant after stealing the young master's star energy? Yixing, do you think you can do whatever you want just because you're the demon star of chaos? Let me tell you, this is the Dark Star sect, the Zhuo family's Dark Star sect. You." 7-star supremacy He Gang interrupted Zhui Yuandong and said, "Senior brother Yuandong, you're wrong. The Dark Star sect belongs to the Zhuo family and the Dark Star sect belongs to everyone. Your words are very dangerous. Does the Zhuo family want to learn from the Meng family and conquer the world?" 7-star supremacy Shiman Song smiled and said, "Don't change the topic. Yixing stole the young master's star energy. Let's talk about how we should deal with this matter." A look of anticipation flashed in Zhui Yupeng's eyes. He glanced at the area with the leaf star and said, "You stole my astral energy. I don't want you to pay me back. You just have to pay me back half of your astral energy." Zhui Yupeng estimated that half of Yixing's star energy would be enough for him to break through to the 8th-star supremacy realm. Ha! Yixing laughed. He calmed down and did not let anger get to his head. However, he made a decision in his heart. This laughter was very dangerous. Yixing stared at Zhui Yupeng with disdain and said, "Young Master Zhuo, you look like a dog, but your heart is thousands of miles away from your appearance. Calling you a beast with a human face is overestimating you. TSK TSK." Zhui Yupeng and the others were furious. Yixing didn't wait for them to speak. "You stole my star force and even beat up my people. I've already tolerated it and didn't want to lower myself to your level. Yet, you just had to be so shameless. You just had to take an inch and take a mile, creating trouble out of nothing. I say, are you going to the latrine with a lantern, looking for shit?" As the young master of the Dark Star sect, when had Zhui Yupeng ever been scolded like this? He was so angry that he jumped like thunder, smoke coming out of his 7 orifices. Zhui Yupeng pointed at Yixing and shouted, You lowly brat, you little animal." Yixing interrupted him and said coldly, "I'll give you the words, little bastard. Don't think that I can't recognize your beast nature just because you're wearing a good human skin." When it came to scolding people, Zhui Yupeng, who had always been the young cult master, couldn't compare to Yixing. "Yixing, you're courting death." 8-star High Lord Zhui Yuandong was furious and shouted, "Without the protection of the Dark Star sect, you would have been torn into pieces by the people of the Great Yuan dynasty. Now, you're insulting our young cult master. Are you still a human? You're a beast in human skin." Zhui Yuandong's aura surged and a ray of starlight rushed out from his forehead. He was using his astrology. Looking at his furious expression, it was obvious that he wanted to attack Yixing whoosh. Zhui Yupeng's aura also erupted. Although he was a 7-star High Lord, his aura was stronger than Zhui Yuandong's. Whoosh, Zhui Yupeng also used his astrology. A ray of starlight rushed into the sky and turned into the lightning astrology. It was an extreme lightning astrology. Its power was even stronger than Meng Yuanting's astrology. Zhui Yupeng was a 3-star king. His cultivation talent was at the peak of the star continent. His fighting strength was also extremely strong. He could easily challenge those above his level. He was a true monstrous genius. Because of this, Zhui Yupeng was unwilling to accept that Yi Xing was the demon star of chaos. In his opinion, the person who was destined to overthrow the great Yuan dynasty had to be him. Zhui Yupeng raised his hand and a purple spear appeared in his hand. It was a peak mid-grade profound artifact, the purple electric spear. Zhui Yupeng's gaze was like a blade as he locked onto Yi Xing and shouted, "You arrogant brat. Today, I'll let you know that you're nothing in front of this young cult master. You're the one who's courting death for snatching my star energy." Shimin Song and the two 6-star High Lords also unleashed their auras as they stared at Yi Xing. Wei Qingxian and He Gang immediately moved forward and stood on Yi Xing's left and right. Yi Xing raised his hand and stopped the two from unleashing their auras. He looked at Zhui Yupeng with contempt and said, "Young cult master, you're so mighty. You brought so many people to attack me. Are you afraid of me to this extent? Can't you be a little more manly and fight me with your own strength?" It was impossible to settle this matter with words. They could only rely on fighting. Even if Yi Xing was reasonable, if he lost to Zhui Yupeng, he wouldn't be able to stop Zhui Yupeng from snatching his star energy. Therefore, he had to beat Zhui Yupeng into submission. Only then would he know how to write the word fear. Zhui Yupeng thought that he was extraordinary. How could he be afraid of Yi Xing? He immediately waved his hand at Zhui Yuandong and the others and said, "What are you doing? All of you, stop. I don't need your help to deal with this wild boy. What demon star of chaos? I'll make him cry like a ghost and beg for mercy with one strike of my spear." Zhui Yuandong and the others restrained their auras and said in unison, "Young cult master is mighty. You're invincible among the younger generation." After saying that, Zhui Yuandong and the others retreated. Zhui Yupeng looked at Yi Xing with a complacent expression and said, "Do you think you're so great after winning the life and death gambling match and defeating 10 middle stage high lords of the Meng family? Those 10 trash added up together wouldn't be enough to kill me. Even if you're a 5-star high lord now, so what? In front of me, Zhui Yupeng, you'll still have to kneel." Yi Xing motioned for Wei Qingxian and He Gang to retreat. Whoosh! Whoosh! Black Hole Constellation and Sagittarius Constellation were used at the same time, hanging high in the sky. Yi Xing raised his hand and the dark crow bow appeared in his hand. His current strength was much stronger than during the life and death gambling match. Even if he didn't dragon form, he wouldn't put an 8-star High Lord in his eyes. In fact, he could even contend with an ordinary 9-star High Lord. However, facing Zhui Yupeng, Yi Xing didn't dare to underestimate him. Just from Zhui Yupeng's surging lightning power, he could sense that Zhui Yupeng's strength was at least at the level of an 8-star High Lord. He might even reach the level of a 9-star High Lord. However, Yi Xing still had the divine dragon blood essence as his trump card, so he was confident. No matter how strong Zhui Yupeng was, Yi Xing wasn't afraid at all. Yi Xing's sword-like gaze locked onto Zhui Yupeng and said coldly, "Wait, I'll let you know what it means to kneel." In an instant, Yi Xing's killing intent locked onto Zhui Yupeng, and the world of darkness enveloped Zhui Yupeng in an instant. However, lightning-attributed stars had a strong resistance against the world of darkness. Although Yi Xing was already a 5-star High Lord, Zhui Yupeng's lightning-attributed star still illuminated a large area. Chapter 681. The cultivation St. Pond was only 50 meters in radius. Including the empty space around it, the entire valley was less than 100 meters wide and 400 meters long. Outside was the restriction formation, which was as high as level 5. The entire valley was only so big. Zhui Yupeng's lightning astrology naturally illuminated the entire valley. Yi Xing's archery was best at long-range attacks. In terms of geographical environment, Yi Xing was at a disadvantage. Zhui Yupeng had a huge advantage. Your astrology is useless against me. Shui Yupeng chuckled. His gaze was still locked onto Yixing's figure. The purple electric spear in his hand pierced out. Whoosh! The astral spear flashed like lightning and instantly arrived in front of Yixing. The spear was too fast and too powerful. The void at the tip of the spear constantly collapsed, forming a small dark void. This was the true shattering of the void. It contained a terrifying might. Only a 9th star Venerable Lord's full-strength attack could reach the level of collapsing space. Such an attack power would cause an 8th star Venerable Lord's strength to collapse upon contact. Yixing's eyes narrowed. Shui Yupeng's strength had obviously reached the 9th star Venerable Lord level. He was at the high level of the astral realm, but he still had the strength to fight someone 2 realms above him. He was indeed monstrous. Excluding Yixing and Wei Qingxian, who shouldn't exist in the star continent, Shui Yupeng's ability to fight those above his level was the limit of the star continent. The most monstrous genius in history could only be compared to him. In terms of cultivation talent and fighting those above his level, he was a top existence in the star continent. A genius like Shui Yupeng was hard to come by in the star continent in thousands of years. Shui Yupeng's spear was fast and powerful. It looked straightforward, but Yixing could feel the profoundness of the spear technique. He was a spear master himself. How could he not know that Shui Yupeng had also reached the realm of spear master, one with the weapon? Such a fast spear couldn't be avoided. Yixing instantly used the momentum of darkness, stirring up the darkness energy in the universe. The black bow carried a thick dark astral light as it slashed towards the purple electric astral spear. In an instant, a dark vortex appeared and enveloped the purple electric astral spear. The dark vortex was penetrated by the purple lightning spear aura and collapsed layer by layer. Yixing felt a terrifying force penetrating through him. Even though he was wearing a black-grade inner armor, he could still feel the sharp aura. Although the dark vortex was unable to stop the purple lightning spear, it was still able to slightly slow down Shui Yupeng's attack speed. Technique of the 9 heavens astral travel. Yixing's figure flashed like a bolt of lightning, narrowly dodging the spear. The purple lightning spear aura missed its target and instantly pierced into the array formation behind it. A string of electric sparks splashed out, but the array formation remained unmoved. Although the power of this spear was terrifying, it was still unable to shake a level 5 array restriction. Where do you think you're going? In the first round, Yixing was forced to rely on his body to avoid the attacks. Shui Yupeng excitedly shouted as the purple lightning spear aura burst out and instantly attacked Yixing outside the formation. It didn't take long to absorb the power of the stars in the Saint Pond. The Black Tiger King, the Dark Star Sect's leader, and the other higher-ups of the Dark Star Sect were all waiting outside. Although Shui Yupeng's spear attack hadn't shaken the formation, as a formation master, Ling Daochen immediately sensed that the formation was under attack. There seems to be a battle going on inside. Someone's fighting. Ling Daochen exclaimed. Someone's fighting. What's going on? The elders were surprised. The Black Tiger King and the Dark Star Sect's leader looked at Ling Daochen at the same time. Ling Daochen said, "Let me activate the projection formation first." Soon, Ling Daochen activated the projection formation, and the scene inside the formation was projected. They saw Shui Yupeng wielding the purple lightning spear. Every spear strike was like a flash of lightning as he attacked Yixing in a frenzy. Yixing, on the other hand, was unable to parry Shui Yupeng's attacks. He could only rely on his extremely fast movement technique to dodge the attacks. The Black Tiger King became excited when he saw this. Stop them. The Dark Star Sect's leader waved his hand and said, "Don't worry. Yupeng knows what he's doing. He won't take Yixing's life. Both of them are geniuses of the present age and are proud and arrogant. It's good to let them fight." No matter who loses, they'll be able to reign in their arrogance. The Black Tiger King said, "Senior brother, you make it sound nice. If your son is the one in a difficult situation right now, can you guarantee that you'll still say the same thing?" The Dark Star Sect's leader said, "Junior brother, don't be impatient. No matter who wins, my attitude will be the same. I also want Yu Peng to suffer a loss so he can reign in his arrogance. Geniuses should be proud, but they can't be too arrogant. No matter which one of them loses, it's a good thing." In truth, Yixing's fame in the Dark Star Sect was too great. Not only had the junior sect master, Zhui Yupeng, been overshadowed by Yixing, but even the Dark Star Sect's leader felt that his fame could not compare to Yixing's. That was because everyone treated Yixing as the hero who would topple the Grand Yuan dynasty in the future. He would be the #1 expert in the world in the future. Naturally, they would praise Yixing greatly. The Dark Star Sect's leader did not receive that kind of praise. As a result, no matter how Yixing and Zhui Yupeng fought, the Dark Star Sect's leader naturally wouldn't stop them from fighting. It was good that Zhui Yupeng killed Yixing. As for Yixing gaining the upper hand, that was just an assumption. Right now, Yixing had already used all his trump cards and was in a difficult situation under Zhui Yupeng's attacks. His defeat was inevitable. In the Dark Star Sect's leader's opinion, it was impossible for Yixing to turn the tables. Since the Dark Star Sect's leader didn't agree to stop their fight, the Black Biao King naturally couldn't forcefully stop them. That would be a slap to the Dark Star Sect's leader's face. The Black Biao King instructed Ling Daoqin, "Be vigilant. If your life is in danger, immediately separate the two of them. Also, check the recording formation to see how they started fighting. Yixing's speed is really not bad. Yu Peng is already a great spear master, and his Thunderbolt Star has greatly increased his relative speed. His spear speed is extremely fast. There aren't many 9th Star Venerables who can dodge Yu Peng's spear attack." The Dark Star Sect's leader commented on Yixing as he watched the image projected by the projection formation. To be able to make the Dark Star Sect's leader praise Yixing, one could see that his speed was truly extraordinary. After Yixing had broken through to the 4th Star Venerable Realm, his comprehension of wind, fire, and darkness had not fallen behind. He had always been spending time comprehending them. Among them, his wind force was the first to make progress. In the realm of one with the world, it had increased by a small level, reaching the Mid-Step King realm. His comprehension of wind force at the Mid-Step King realm was only a step away from perfection. Yixing had merged his wind force into the 9 Heavens Divine Wander Art, so his speed was naturally fast. If not for that, Yixing wouldn't have been able to dodge Zhui Yupeng's Purple Lightning Spear. Zhui Yupeng's Purple Lightning Spear art was originally as fast as lightning. Adding on the fact that he was a spear grandmaster, it wasn't that easy to dodge. Chapter 682. At the Cultivation Sacred Pool. Everyone stopped absorbing the power of the stars to cultivate. Instead, they hid at the edge of the valley and focused on the battle. Zhui Yuandong, Shimen Song, and the others were overjoyed when they saw Yixing being defeated by Zhui Yupeng. He Gang, who was standing beside Yixing, frowned nervously. On the other hand, Wei Qingxian was very calm. Yixing told Wei Qingxian about his achievements, including obtaining the Divine Dragon's blood essence in the extraterritorial Star Land. Therefore, Wei Qingxian knew that Yixing had a stronger trump card. Therefore, she was not worried about Yixing, ha 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 ha. Zhui Yupeng was very excited when he saw Yixing running away from his spear. He laughed and said, "Yixing, you're only so-so. Ha ha ha. Look, you're running away like a dog under my spear. Ha 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 ha." Yixing used his Bao martial arts to block the spear while using the 9 Heavens astral travel technique to dodge. Although he looked miserable, he always managed to dodge Zhui Yupeng's attacks. Yixing said, Shui Yupeng, you're a 7-star supremacy, and I'm just a 5-star supremacy. After fighting for so long, you can't even hurt a single hair on my body. Even if you don't feel embarrassed, I feel embarrassed for you. However, you're still smiling proudly. I really don't know where your sense of superiority and pleasure comes from. Your strength is nothing much, but your shamelessness is unparalleled. Shui Yupeng's smile froze. Yixing's words had hit Shui Yupeng's sore spot. How could he still smile? Do you really think I can't do anything to you? Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Shui Yupeng flew into a rage and roared, Ultimate Purple Flash. Ultimate Purple Flash. It was a killing move that Shui Yupeng had comprehended himself. All the power of lightning burst out in an instant, forming an extremely fast, powerful, and unstoppable killing move. Once this move was used, everything in front of it would be penetrated. Because it was too fast, even Shui Yupeng could not control it freely. It was very likely that he would accidentally kill someone. As it turned out, Shui Yupeng did not plan to use this move. However, he was so angry that he could not care less. His mind was like a demon. Stop. Outside the restriction, the Black Tiger King cried out anxiously, but before he could finish speaking, he stopped abruptly. Shui Yupeng's spear was too fast. The Black Biao King was worried that Yixing would lose his life under this spear, so he reminded Ling Daochen to stop the two of them and use an array to separate them. However, just as Shui Yupeng used the extreme purple flash, Yixing suddenly changed. Luo 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 O Luo Dragon, Luo Luo, Luo, Luo Luo Dragon, Luo Luo. In just an instant, Yixing had turned into a dragon man. This sudden change shocked everyone. The Black Tiger King also understood that Yixing still had a trump card, so he stopped shouting and did not let Ling Dao stop the fight. The ultimate purple flash was too fast. Martial artists below the king level could only see a flash of purple light, and the purple electric spear was already in front of Yixing. Such a fast move was unavoidable and unstoppable. Even a majority of 9th-star venerable lords would be pierced by this spear. Only a small number of them could block it. The purple electric light suddenly stopped in front of Yixing. Yixing's hands, which had turned into dragon claws, were pressed together in front of his chest. The tip of the purple electric spear was smacked between the two claws. The power of these two claws was shockingly strong. The purple lightning spear was instantly clamped and was unable to pierce forward even an inch. A purple aura burst out from the tip of the spear and hit Yixing. However, the dragon scales on Yixing's body were incomparably tough. When the purple lightning spear chi landed on the dragon scales, sparks flew in all directions, but Yixing was unharmed. How was this possible? Everyone was shocked. They were dumbstruck, and their faces turned pale with fright. Dragonization, what kind of martial art was this? Even the kings present had never heard of such a thing. The person who was most shocked was none other than Shui Yupeng. He knew very well how terrifying his extreme violet flash was. However, such a terrifying move had actually been blocked by Yixing's palms. The outcome was beyond his expectations. At this moment, Yixing's body was covered in dragon scales and his palms had turned into dragon claws. Shui Yupeng was shocked and terrified when he saw this. At this moment, the corners of Yixing's mouth curled up into a small arc. His body leaned to the right, and with his two claws, he threw the purple electric spear to the left. Yixing's strength was so strong that the purple electric spear was pushed forward by his claws. Shui Yupeng grabbed the spear shaft and his body was pulled forward. Boom! As Yixing leaned to the side, his dragon tail swept out like a long whip. Shui Yupeng's body was pushed forward and was hit by the dragon tail. Bang! Shui Yupeng spat out blood and was sent flying by the dragon tail. His body flew more than 100 meters and crashed heavily into the formation. This crash made Zhui Yupeng dizzy. He could not tell north from south. Before Zhui Yupeng could recover his sense of direction, a golden light flashed in front of his eyes and he felt his neck tighten. Yixing appeared in front of Zhui Yupeng in an instant and grabbed Zhui Yupeng's neck with his dragon claws. He lifted Zhui Yupeng up and slammed him into the ground. Zhui Yupeng was smashed into the ground. The ground of the valley was not as sturdy as the edge of the cultivation pond. Then, Yixing dragged Zhui Yupeng and created a deep trench. Outside the formation, the Dark Star religious leader cried out, "Yixing has gone crazy. Quick, stop him." Ling Daochen looked at the Dark Star religious leader innocently. Using the formation to separate the two of them would only work if they were not together. Now that Yixing was holding Zhui Yupeng's neck, how could they separate? Fortunately, when the Dark Star religious leader cried out, Yixing grabbed Zhui Yupeng from the ground and threw him far away. He shouted, "Zhui Yupeng, tell me now, who's going to kneel?" When Ling Daochen saw Yixing throw Zhui Yupeng away, he hurriedly controlled the formation to form a wall of light, separating Yixing and Zhui Yupeng in two areas. Seeing his son beaten like a dead dog, the Dark Star religious leader was very pained. He cried out, "Quick, find the entrance to the formation." At this moment, the Black Tiger King's expression was relaxed as he said, "Senior brother, don't be anxious. You already said that this is a good thing. This child, Yupeng, is too arrogant. Now that he's suffered a bit and restrained his arrogance, isn't this exactly what senior brother wants? Don't worry, senior brother." The Dark Star religious leader almost spat out a mouthful of blood. At that time, he had said those words because he thought Zhui Yupeng would definitely win. Now that Zhui Yupeng had been defeated and thrown to the side by Yixing like a dead dog, the only thing left in the sect master's heart was worry. He was incomparably nervous. When he heard the words he had said before, he wished he could slap his own mouth. Chapter 683. The entrance to the formation was quickly opened. The Dark Star sect's leader was the first to rush in. The Black Tiger King followed closely behind, and the other higher-ups also entered the valley. At this time, Yixing had already returned to his human form. Zhui Yupeng crawled up and sat on the ground. There was still a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, and he looked battered and exhausted. Zhui Yupeng was the Dark Star sect's young master. Yixing knew his limits. Although it looked like he had beaten him up badly, he didn't suffer any serious injuries. Yixing's goal wasn't to injure Zhui Yupeng badly, but to teach him a lesson and let him know his own worth. "Yupeng, are you all right?" The Dark Star sect's leader rushed to Zhui Yupeng and helped him up. Zhui Yupeng had always been arrogant, but today, he had suffered such a miserable defeat at the hands of Yixing. Now that he saw the Dark Star sect's leader and the higher-ups of the Dark Star sect, he felt ashamed. "Father, Yixing has gone too far. He stole my astral energy and even injured me. You have to uphold justice for me." Although Zhui Yupeng was ashamed, he wasn't stupid. He continued to push the blame on Yixing. He wanted to be in the right first. Although there was no proof, and the Dark Star sect's leader wouldn't believe Yixing's words, Yixing couldn't tolerate Zhui Yupeng slandering him. Yixing said, "Sect leader, the one who stole your astral energy is Zhui Yupeng, and the one who attacked first is also Zhui Yupeng. He is distorting the truth and creating trouble out of nothing. Please investigate." Zhui Yupeng had been beaten up badly by Yixing. He knew that he couldn't deal with Yixing by himself, so he could only rely on his father. The only way was to falsely accuse Yixing. As long as his father believed him, he would naturally take care of Yixing. Zhui Yupeng was like a rooster with its feathers puffed up. He pointed at Yixing and shouted, "Bullshit. You were the one who snatched my star energy first. Now you've even injured me. My injuries are still there, and you still dare to deny it." Just as the Dark Star Sect Master was about to speak, the Black Tiger King shouted, "What are you arguing about? Elder Daoist, have you investigated how they started fighting?" Shui Yupeng's face paled. Ling Daoqin was an elder of formations. Could it be that there was a record of formations in the cultivation sacred pond? If that was really the case, then there would be a recording array to record everything. They would be able to find evidence of what had happened before. Shui Yupeng immediately had a bad feeling. Now, Shui Yupeng could only pray that the cultivation sacred pond did not record the array formation. Ling Daoqin said, "Sect Master, left emissary, I've already investigated through the recording array." It was the young sect master who snatched Yixing's star energy first. Then, Yixing stopped him. Then, the young sect master attacked Yixing. After Yixing dodged, the two of them started arguing. After that, Yixing swallowed his anger and said that he would let it go. However, the young sect master said that he could not let it go. He wanted Yixing to compensate him with half of the remaining star energy. Yixing refused, so the two of them started fighting and ended up like this. Shui Yupeng's face instantly turned pale. Damn, there really was a recording array formation. The cultivation sacred pond only opened once every few decades. It had been 80 years since the last time it opened. Shui Yupeng was only 31 years old. How could he have known that there was a recording array formation in the cultivation sacred pond? If he had known that there was a recording array formation, Shui Yupeng would have suppressed his demonic thoughts and not made such a mistake. Slap! The Dark Star Sect Master was furious. He slapped Shui Yupeng's face. Shui Yupeng immediately vomited blood and shattered teeth. He was sent flying by the Dark Star Sect Master's slap. The Dark Star Sect Master was truly furious today. Shui Yupeng was a monstrous genius, and he had always been very satisfied with him. But today, he realized that his son's temperament was lacking. Not only did he steal someone else's things, he even wanted to hit someone. How could there be such logic in this world? The Dark Star Sect Master felt that he had lost all face. The higher his expectations for Shui Yupeng, the greater his disappointment. His heart was dripping blood. Shui Yupeng crashed into the distance and vomited blood once more. The injury Yixing had inflicted on him just now was not as great as this slap from the Dark Star Sect Master. Shui Yupeng's status in the Dark Star Sect was all because his father was the Dark Star Sect Master. Now that his father had given him such a heavy slap, he was completely stunned. The Dark Star Sect Master said angrily, "You bastard, you've disappointed me too much. I'll punish you to go to the reflection room and reflect on your actions for 3 months. Reflect on your actions." After saying that, the Dark Star Sect Master waved his sleeves and walked out of the valley. In order to prevent the cultivation St. Pond's astral power from leaking out, the array formation's entrance was opened and closed at will. Ling Daoqin hurriedly followed the Dark Star Sect Master and opened the array formation's entrance. The Black Biao King glanced at Shui Yupeng in the distance. Then, he gave Yixing a look of affirmation. He waved at the upper echelons and said, "Let's go out first and let them continue cultivating." Soon, the upper echelons of the Dark Star Sect left the valley. Only the first 10 young venerables were left in the cultivation St. Pond. Young Sect Master. Young Sect Master, how are you? Shui Yuandong, Shimen Song, and the others hurriedly ran to Shui Yupeng's side. Although Shui Yupeng had been taught a lesson by the Dark Star Sect Master and was punished to go to the reflection room, the Dark Star Sect Master only had one son. He had always been very important to the Dark Star Sect Master. Moreover, Shui Yupeng was indeed a genius. The position of Sect Master would definitely fall on Shui Yupeng in the future. Therefore, the younger generation of the Zhuo clan and Shimen clan naturally continued to rely on Shui Yupeng. Shui Yupeng spat out a mouthful of blood and fiercely punched the ground. His eyes were filled with anger and resentment. However, he no longer dared to look at Yixing. The battle just now had already shown that he, Zhui Yupeng, was not a match for Yixing. He no longer had the qualifications to challenge Yixing. At least not now. The Dark Star Sect's action surprised Yixing. He thought that even if the Dark Star Sect master knew the truth, he would still protect Zhui Yupeng and not punish him. However, he didn't expect the Dark Star Sect master to be so fair. Yixing somewhat understood why the Black Tiger King, who was the strongest in the Dark Star Sect, didn't want the position of Dark Star Sect master. He was also very respectful to the Dark Star Sect master. It seemed that the Dark Star Sect master was indeed a very competent sect master. He didn't seek personal gains for the Zhuo clan, and handled things fairly. Yixing looked at Wei Qingxian. The two looked at each other and smiled. Then, they returned to the pool and sat down to cultivate. He Gang and the Lin and Lan clan elders also returned to their seats. Although Zhui Yuandong, Shimin Song, and the others were very dissatisfied with Yixing, they didn't dare to provoke Yixing. So, they all returned to their seats and continued to cultivate. Soon, someone else made a breakthrough. It was the 6-star master of the Lan family, becoming a 7th-star master. It seemed like he had consolidated his 6th-level astral reaching realm cultivation base quite well. After that, no one else made a breakthrough. After absorbing all the star power in the pool, Yixing's cultivation had already consolidated to the late 5th level, and Wei Qingxian had even consolidated to the peak of the 5th level. Author's note: I will continue to update 6 times today. No matter how late I work, I will finish it. Requesting monthly votes. Chapter 684. After leaving the cultivation Saint Pond, Zhui Yupeng was brought to the reflection room by the law enforcers to receive his punishment. Yixing and Wei Qingxian returned to the Left Star Emissary's mansion. After breaking through to the 5th level of astral reaching realm, falling star incantation, worldly momentum, man-weapon union, and other aspects would all reach a higher level. In the following period of time, Yixing and Wei Qingxian once again immersed themselves in cultivation. Time flew by like water. 1 month later, Yixing's mid-rank mystic realm falling star technique had broken through to the 5th level. 2 months later, Yixing's Tao of archery had improved by a small level in the realm of one with the weapon, reaching the 2nd stage. 3 months later, in the Fire Magma Cave of the Dark Star Sect. The Fire Magma Cave was one of the best places in the Dark Star Sect. Cultivating fire-attributed martial arts and comprehending fire-attributed aura could be done in the Fire Magma Cave. Fire Yuan Qi gathered around Yixing. His whole body was burning with a faint layer of flame. The power of the condensed flame was gradually increasing. Hoo! All of a sudden, the surrounding Fire Yuan Qi went berserk. The power of Yixing's flames suddenly increased by another level. The surrounding Fire Yuan Qi started to revolve around Yixing, turning into a huge flame whirlpool. The power of the flame was horrifying. After about 10 breaths, the surrounding Fire Yuan Qi calmed down. The flame outside Yixing's body gradually disappeared, and everything returned to normal. Yixing stood up. 2 beams of light shot out from his eyes. His eyes were filled with excitement. Fire-attributed aura has also reached the level of a mid-step king. It is only 1 step away from completion. Wind and fire are on par. Only the darkness-attributed aura is still at the level of a low-step king. The corner of Yixing's mouth curled up. He was very satisfied with his understanding of the aura. Shoo! Yixing's body moved and the vital qi of fire gathered beneath his feet. He rode on the fire and moved at lightning speed. Soon, he was out of the fire lava cave and headed for the Left Emissary's residence. As soon as Yixing arrived outside the mansion of Huo Left Emissary, he felt a strong wave of star power coming from the mansion. The chi of the stars in the void was all gathering towards a certain place in the mansion. Qingshuan's cultivation has broken through to the 6 stars Martial Highness realm. Yixing's eyes glittered. He quickened his pace and rushed into the residence. Yixing arrived at the courtyard where the two of them were staying. The astral yuan qi in the air had already calmed down. Wei Qingxian had stopped her cultivation, and the aura of a 6-star venerable emanated from her body. As expected, her cultivation had broken through. In the cultivation Saint Pond, Wei Qingxian had consolidated her cultivation to the peak of the 5th astral reaching realm, while Yixing had only consolidated his cultivation to the late stage of the 5th astral reaching realm. It seemed that the two of them were only a small step apart, but in reality, the gap between them was not small. Wei Qingxian had only used 3 months to break through to the 6 stars Martial Highness realm, while Yixing had only just consolidated his cultivation to the peak of the 5th astral reaching realm. In another 3 months, he might not be able to break through. In terms of cultivation talent, Wei Qingxian was a purple fate, which was much higher than Yixing's. She was only a small step ahead of Yixing, so she had broken through a few months earlier than Yixing. Yixing's cultivation speed had always been fast. On one hand, it was because he was always able to devour high-level heavenly fates. On the other hand, it was also because of all kinds of opportunities. On the other hand, Wei Qingshuan's cultivation speed was so fast mainly because of her cultivation talent. A purple fate was a true god's fate, and her talent was too frightening. Staying in the Dark Star sect is indeed safe, but I also lack experience and adventure. I won't be able to obtain any opportunities. If this continues, my cultivation speed won't be as fast as Qingshuan's, and my cultivation will fall further and further behind her. Yixing thought to himself, somewhat rueful. Right now, he felt like a flower in a greenhouse. The Dark Star sect was protecting him, but it had also cut off a lot of his opportunities. A strong feeling arose in Yixing's heart. He really wanted to leave the Dark Star sect and go out adventuring. The next day, Yixing found the Black Tiger King and proposed his idea. No. The Black Tiger King rejected Yixing's idea. Yixing argued, Brother Heibiao, I think I need to gain more experience. Cultivating so steadily is too slow. Moreover, it's like a flower in a greenhouse. It will wear down one's willpower and will. Slow. When you return to the Dark Star sect in the 2nd month, you are already a 3-star venerable. The year hasn't even ended yet, and you're already a 5-star venerable. How is this slow? The Black Tiger King's eyes widened in shock. If other geniuses knew that Yixing was still complaining about his cultivation speed being too slow, they would probably buy a block of tofu and kill themselves. Yixing said, I feel that I can't catch up to Qingshuan's footsteps. She's already a 6-star venerable, but I'm still far away from breaking through. The Black Tiger King blinked his eyes. Comparing Wei Qingxian and Yixing, in one sentence, there was no such thing as the most monstrous, only more monstrous. Yixing's cultivation speed was definitely unprecedented in the Star Continent. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was number 1 in all of history. However, compared to Wei Qingxian, he paled in comparison. The title of number 1 in all of history had to exclude Wei Qingxian, or else it wouldn't live up to its name. The Black Tiger King sighed, and said, There's always someone better than you. It's not a big deal that someone's cultivation speed is faster than you. Besides, there's no one else who's faster than you aside from Qingxian. There's no one who can even be compared to you. Why do you have to compare yourself to Qingxian? Yixing thought to himself, what's the point of comparing myself to others? I can't catch up to Qingxian in terms of cultivation, so how can I be worthy of her in the future? How can I get the approval of her venerable one father? Of course, Yixing could only say this in his heart. Wei Qingxian being the daughter of a venerable one was a secret of Wei Qingxian. She could share it with Yixing, but Yixing couldn't tell anyone else. Yixing thought for a while, and said, "If I continue to cultivate peacefully, I feel that my cultivation speed will become slower and slower. My passion for cultivation will also slowly be obliterated. This doesn't match my temperament. I like to roam the world freely and explore all sorts of places. Even if I encounter danger, I won't hesitate. Experiencing danger should also be a part of cultivation." It wasn't that the Black Tiger King didn't understand the logic of Yixing's words, but Yixing was just too important. Once Yixing left the Dark Star sect and the Grand Yuan dynasty found out, they would definitely hunt down Yixing. They wouldn't rest until they eliminated Yixing. The Black Tiger King thought for a while, and said, "You're right. It's hard for a flower in a greenhouse to become something great. However, your safety is just too important. I can't let you take any risks. How about this? Once you have the power to protect yourself, I'll allow you to leave the Dark Star sect." Yixing said, "What do you mean by having the power to protect myself?" The Black Tiger King said, "If the Grand Yuan dynasty finds out about you, they'll definitely send kings to hunt you down. At the very least, you can escape from kings. Only then can you have the power to protect yourself. At that time, you'll be able to roam the world as you please." Yixing's eyes shone with fighting spirit. Being able to escape from kings wasn't too difficult for him. Chapter 685. If Yixing used all of his trump cards, it would be hard for him to find a match among the reverends. Even if it were those ranked on the reverend list, Yixing wouldn't be afraid. Although the strength of a 9-star reverend was far from that of a king, it was just escaping. With Yixing's comprehension of wind momentum, it shouldn't be too hard for him to defeat a king. Of course, Yixing was only a 5-star reverend. His cultivation base was too far away from that of a king. If he broke through to the 6th or 7th level of astral reaching realm, Yixing could try to find a king from the Dark Star sect and see if he could escape. Yixing could wait until his cultivation base broke through 1 or 2 levels. With a goal in mind, Yixing's cultivation mood was stirred up again. With a good mood, his qi would flow smoothly, and his cultivation would be twice the result with half the effort. Another month passed by. It was now December of the 10,006th year of the Yuan calendar. Seeing that the year was about to end, a hair-raising matter happened in the Star Continent. Star Continent, North Underworld Continent, Extreme North. The land was covered in ice and snow as a white figure flew across the sky. If Yixing were here, he would definitely recognize that the woman flying in the sky was the Extreme Ice Empire's Reverend Leng Yu. The Beigong family was a great reverend family in the Extreme Ice Empire. There were 2 mid-level reverends in the family, and more than 10 low-level reverends. It was a famous super family in the Extreme Ice Empire. The Beigong family was located at the northern edge of the Extreme Ice Empire. The family's inheritance was ice and snow martial arts, and they had been living in the land of ice and snow for several thousand years. They were almost as old as the Extreme Ice Empire. For several thousand years, the Beigong family stood aloof from worldly affairs. Apart from sending a few disciples to the Ice Pole sect in each generation, they rarely interacted with the outside world. However, today, the Ice Pole sect received an urgent request for help from the Beigong family. The Ice Pole sect wanted to go to the Beigong family's rescue through the teleportation array. However, the teleportation array of the Beigong family didn't respond. Thus, Reverend Leng Yu used the teleportation array and arrived at the extreme north of the Extreme Ice Empire, rushing towards the Beigong family. Not long after, Lord Leng Yu arrived outside the Beigong clan. The Beigong clan, which had more than 1,000 members, was silent. No one came out to welcome him. Furthermore, the spirit formation that had once enveloped the Beigong clan no longer existed. There was something strange about this place, and a dangerous aura could be felt. Lord Lang Yu took out a middle-grade mystic weapon and circulated her astral energy. She was on high alert as she snuck into the Bei Gong clan's mansion. There was not a single person in the courtyard outside. It was dead silent. It was only when she entered the inner court that High Lord Lang Yu saw corpses all over the ground. No, perhaps they couldn't be called corpses, because these corpses no longer had any flesh and blood. Only bones were left, and then a layer of human skin was draped over them. They looked extremely terrifying, and it would be more appropriate to call them human skin skeletons. What was even more terrifying than a single skin skeleton was a pile of skin skeletons. In front of Lord Lang Yu, the entire inner court was filled with skin skeletons. Moreover, these skin skeletons were lined up neatly in rows. It was obvious that someone had purposely moved them here. There was no doubt that these were the martial artists of the Bei Gong clan. It was unknown whether they had turned into skin skeletons after their flesh and blood had been sucked dry, or if they had been moved here first and turned into skin skeletons after their flesh and blood had been sucked dry. This question was no longer important. Lord Lang Yu's hair stood on end as she sensed a terrifying threat. Her heart pounded violently. Lord Lang Yu immediately turned around and saw a green-furred humanoid monster at the corner of the wall outside the courtyard. Its eyes were glowing with green light as it stared at her. The terrifying threat came from this green-furred humanoid monster. Right now, Lord Lang Yu should be worried about her own safety. Lord Lang Yu held the middle-grade mystic weapon in her hand tightly. Swoosh! Starlight shot up into the sky. She had used her astrology to gather the essence of heaven and earth around her body. She circulated her astral energy and maintained her strength at its peak. Lord Lang Yu could feel that this green-furred humanoid monster would be a horrifying enemy. She had to use all of her strength. However, when Lord Lang Yu raised her strength to its peak, her expression changed. She saw that in the opposite corner, behind the roof, behind the trees, one after another, green-furred humanoid monsters walked out. Their eyes were all shining with green light as they stared at Lord Lang Yu. 7th level astral reaching realm. Very good food. The green-furred humanoid monster that appeared first spoke in human language. Who? As soon as this green-furred humanoid monster finished speaking, its body flashed and jumped toward Lord Lang Yu. High Lord Lang Yu was horrified. Her mid-grade Xian sword shot out a resplendent astral light. The surrounding temperature suddenly dropped. Her sword was covered in white frost as it dodged the green-furred humanoid monster. Dang! When the sword struck the green-furred humanoid monster, a crisp sound rang out. The green-furred humanoid monster only dropped a few strands of green fur, and a shallow mark appeared on its body. Not even its skin was broken. The full-power attack of a 7-star High Lord could not even break its skin. This defense was too powerful. The green-furred humanoid monster did not care about Lord Lang Yu's sword at all. It took it head-on, and the claws under its long green hair stabbed forward like sharp blades. Its speed was like lightning. Lord Lang Yu's great sword had not yet been pulled back when the latter's claws had already broken through her protective astral layer and pierced into her chest. Her heart shattered instantly. Lord Lang Yu opened her eyes wide, full of fear. She had never thought that she, a 7-star High Lord, would die like this. The green-furred humanoid monster jumped forward, pushing Lord Lang Yu to the ground. It opened its mouth, revealing 2 long green teeth, and bit into her neck. Lord Lang Yu's body started to wither, as if all of her flesh and blood had been sucked out. Soon, only a skeleton and a layer of skin were left. Until her death, Lord Lang Yu did not even manage to spread the news. 3 days later. The imperial capital of the Extreme Ice Empire was attacked by a group of green-furred humanoids. There were only a few survivors, and the upper echelons of the Extreme Ice sect were all wiped out. The Extreme Ice Empire no longer existed. According to the martial artists who had escaped from the Extreme Ice Emperor's capital, a group of terrifying green-furred monsters had attacked the Extreme Ice Emperor's capital. Their bodies were invulnerable, and they could devour human flesh and blood. The martial artists they killed had been sucked into their flesh and blood, and their bodies had turned into skeletons. As the news spread, panic covered the entire northern tranquil continent. The Northern Wind Empire, which was next to the Extreme Ice Empire, was the first to receive the news. They immediately sent people to the Great Yuan Dynasty through a level 5 teleportation array. The Great Yuan Dynasty immediately sent kings to the Northern Tranquil Continent to find the green-furred humanoids. It's already the 3rd day of the 6th update. Brothers, please support me with monthly votes. Chapter 686. The fall of a high-rank empire was definitely a huge event that shook the entire star continent. Not long after, the strange incident in the northern nether continent had spread throughout the 5 continents. A monster that could destroy an empire and turn martial artists into human skeletons was simply too terrifying. For a time, all the martial artists were in a state of panic. Fortunately, although these green-furred monsters were powerful, they were not as strong as kings. Under the pursuit of kings, the green-furred monsters of the northern underworld continent gradually disappeared. However, the wounds left behind by the green-furred monsters were deeply imprinted in every martial artist's heart. In the northern underworld continent, not only was the Extreme Ice Empire destroyed, but many middle and low-rank empires were also massacred by the green-furred monsters. The 12th month of the year 10006 of the DUN calendar was a tragic period in human history. The tragedy of the northern underworld continent would be recorded in history and passed down as a warning to future generations. The Dark Star sect's control over the northern underworld continent was very weak, but they still received news of the northern underworld continent a few days later. Now that the end of the year was approaching, the Dark Star sect also sent a team of kings to the northern underworld continent to hunt down the green-furred monsters. Soon, it was the year 10007 of the DUN calendar, and Yixing was already 22 years old. The Dark Star sect's king team returned from the northern underworld continent with news of the green-furred monsters. Left emissaries' residence. The Black Biao King came to Yixing and Wei Qingxuan's residence, and the 3 sat down in the courtyard. The Black Biao King said, "The king team of our sect that went to the northern underworld continent has returned. They finally understood what those green-furred monsters were and where they came from. The green-furred monsters could suck martial artists dry and were the public enemy of the human race." After Yixing received the news, he had been paying attention to the news of the northern underworld continent. Yixing asked, "What is it?" The Black Biao King said, "In the history of the Star Continent, there have been green-furred monsters invading before. However, the most recent one was 13,000 years ago, so very few martial artists know about it. Our Dark Star sect has only been established for 1,000 years, so we don't know about this matter." The king team that went to the northern underworld continent asked some ancient families with long histories and found out that these green-furred monsters came from the Sea of Black Prison in the extreme north of the Star Continent. It is said that the space and the depths of the Sea of Abyss Prison is very unstable. Spatial cracks will often appear, and sometimes, the spatial cracks will connect to another world. These green-furred monsters came from another world. In the Star Continent, there were countless martial arts families. Some of the martial arts families might not be very powerful, but they had a long history. Some of the ancient families had a history of more than 10,000 years, even older than the Great Yuan Dynasty. Some of them had a history of more than 10,000 years and had gone through several dynasties. These ancient aristocratic families were the most knowledgeable about the history of the Star Land. Their family's history had been passed down for tens of thousands of years. Although they mainly recorded their family's history, they would also record some of the major events in human history. The green-furred monsters had invaded for far too long a time, over 10,000 years. It was normal for some martial arts influences that had existed for thousands or even thousands of years to not have heard of them. From another world. Yixing frowned and said, "That is to say, we still don't know what these green-furred monsters are. What's the situation in the northern nether region? Have these green-furred monsters been killed?" The Black Biao King shook his head and said, "These green-furred monsters are very sensitive to the aura of human martial artists. They can distinguish the cultivation of human martial artists. When a king appears, they will know from far away and flee. The number of green-furred monsters killed by a king is very small, and most of them have fled back to the Sea of Abyss prison. They can come out at any time to bring disaster to the world. To humans, this is a great hidden danger." Yixing said, "Then let's kill our way into the Sea of Abyss prison and find them all. If we don't eliminate them all, once they come out, how many humans will suffer?" The Black Biao King said, "The Sea of Abyss prison has chaotic space. It is a forbidden zone for kings. Only when the space inside is destroyed can kings enter. However, the destruction of space is not a good thing. This means that the spatial cracks in the depths of the Sea of Abyss prison are large enough to allow king-level existences to pass through. Then, the invading foreign races will not be at the same level as the green-furred monsters. According to an ancient family with tens of thousands of years of history, there is a type of green-furred monster that is much stronger than the green-furred monsters. Its strength is equivalent to a king. If a green-furred monster invades, even a king could be sucked into a human skeleton. 100,000 years ago, there was a green-furred monster that invaded and swept through the entire star continent. Even kings fell one after another. In the end, a god descended and expelled the green-furred monsters, allowing the star continent to be controlled by humans again. Yixing sucked in a breath of cold air. The entire star continent's humans were massacred, and even kings were not spared. What kind of tragic situation was that? It was simply the end of the world. Yixing said, "Then what do we do? We can't let the green-furred monsters hide in the Sea of Abyss prison forever, right? Kings can't always be waiting outside the Sea of Abyss prison. Moreover, since the Sea of Abyss prison is called a sea, its area should not be small. There are only so many kings, so how can we defend it?" The Black Biao King nodded and said, "Of course we can't defend it. Therefore, it is necessary to eliminate these green-furred monsters. The chaotic space of the Sea of Abyss prison is like a huge net. A king's strength is too strong. Once they use their strength, they will surpass the holes of the net and be trapped by the net. Like a fish in a net, they will be unable to escape and will be imprisoned forever. This is the origin of the Sea of Abyss prison's name. However, even if a venerable strength explodes to the limit, it will not surpass the holes of the net. Just like how a small fish can shuttle through a large net, a venerable can also attack at will in the Sea of Abyss prison. Therefore, any matter of entering the Sea of Abyss prison to kill the green-furred monsters can only be done by venerables. However, ordinary venerables will die when facing the green-furred monsters. At the very least, one needs to be a venerable lord to contend against them. To kill the green-furred monsters, even venerable lords have to form a team. Otherwise, their lives will be in danger." Yixing's expression changed, and he said somewhat excitedly, "Since kings can't enter the Sea of Abyss prison, then I can also enter to kill the green-furred monsters." The Black Biao King nodded, "Yes, you can. Moreover, there is a benefit to killing the green-furred monsters. Although they have a human form, their body structure is different from humans. They don't have internal organs, and their heart is a corpse jade, which is the source of their strength." Yixing was astonished. Corpse jade. The Black Biao King said, "Correct, it is a corpse jade. It is no different from the corpse jade of the Sky Corpse mountain range, but of a higher grade. The corpse jade inside the green-furred monsters is very useful for astral reaching realm venerables. If you can kill more of them in the Sea of Abyss prison, the corpse jade you obtain will be a cultivation treasure. Chapter 687. Corpse jades were good things for warriors. In the Sky Corpse mountain range, most of the corpse jades were spirit level. There were very few profound level corpse jades, and they were all in the deepest part of the Sky Corpse mountain range. And there were corpse kings in the Sky Corpse mountain range. Even kings didn't dare to fight with corpse kings in the Sky Corpse mountain range. Therefore, it was basically impossible to obtain a profound level corpse jade in the Sky Corpse mountain range. However, there were corpse jades in the bodies of these green-furred monsters. This world was really big, and nothing was too strange. The green-furred monsters sucked the humans they killed into skeletons. Obviously, it was because human flesh was useful to them. And the corpse jades in the bodies of the green-furred monsters were also great treasures for human warriors. With the existence of benefits, whether it was the green-furred monsters against the humans or the humans against the green-furred monsters, they all wanted to kill them quickly. These were natural enemies. As long as they met, they would fight to the death. Because of the corpse jades, even if the green-furred monsters hid in the Sea of Black prison and didn't come out, human warriors would still think of ways to kill them. Therefore, the venerables going to the Sea of Black prison weren't limited to the Dark Star sect. The Great Yuan dynasty would also send venerables. The sooner they went to the Sea of Black prison to hunt the green-furred monsters, the better. The Dark Star sect only used one day to arrange the people going, and ordered them to set off for the Sea of Black prison the next morning. After the Black Biao King left, Wei Qingxian frowned and said, "I think I know what these green-furred monsters are." Yixing was looking forward to going to the Sea of Black prison to kill. Hearing Wei Qingxian's words, he quickly asked, "What are they?" Wei Qingxian said, "They should be undead creatures from the world of death. In my previous life, I read about them in the Reincarnation Palace. They have corpse jades in their bodies. They are lifeless objects. Only by breaking or taking out their corpse jades will they lose their source of power and truly die. Otherwise, no matter how heavy their injuries are, they will still be able to fight. Their favorite food is the flesh of living creatures, which can help them increase their rank and strength." Yixing said in surprise, "World of death. Undead creatures." This was the first time Yixing had heard of this. Wei Qingxian nodded and said, "All living things are divided into yin and yang, and the world is also divided into two sides, life and death, formed by the world of life and the world of death. The world where human beings, demon beasts, and other races lived was the world of life. The world where dead spirits lived was the world of death. The two worlds of life and death were the two sides of the whole world. Under normal circumstances, the life and death realms would not be connected. However, there was always a possibility. Sometimes, an unstable space would create a passage connecting the life and death realms. The spatial crack in the Sea of Abyss prison should be such a situation. Theoretically speaking, every starry sky continent in the world of life had a place where living beings lived. On the other side, there was the world of death where dead souls lived. The world of life was full of vigor and vitality, while the world of death was lifeless and barren. Therefore, once a space passage connected to the world of life appeared, the dead spirits of the world of death would be attracted by the aura of the world of life and invade it. According to the records of the Reincarnation Palace, there were very few starry sky continents connected to the world of death, 1 in 10,000. It seems that the starry sky continent is the 1 in 10,000 starry sky continents connected to the world of death. Yixing was speechless and shrugged his shoulders. The starry sky continents connected to the world of death were 1 in 10,000. He had encountered such a 1 in 10,000 starry sky continents as soon as he had crossed over. His luck was really excellent. He did not know whether it was excellent or terrible. Glancing at Wei Qingxian in front of him, Yixing had an answer in his heart. Of course, His luck was excellent. If he had not crossed over to the Starry Sky continent, how could he have met Wei Qingxian? Wei Qingxian paused for a moment, then continued, the dead spirits of the world of death, martial arts are divided into 8 ranks, corresponding to the 8 realms of warriors. They don't have titles like martial saint, Daoist, venerable, and so on. They also don't have star vortex realm, star gang realm, astral reaching realm, and so on. They are divided into ranks 1, 2, 3, all the way to the 8th rank. Apart from the differences in strength, the different ranks of dead spirits also have different colors. From rank 1 to 8, they are respectively red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple, and black. Green-haired dead spirits are equivalent to venerables, cyan-haired dead spirits are equivalent to kings. Rank 8 black-haired dead spirits are as powerful as supremes. Fortunately, this time it was only the green-haired dead spirits that invaded. If it was the green-haired dead spirits, the Starry Sky continent would have been finished, and the 5 continents would have been slaughtered. The dead spirits were actually so terrifying that they could even be compared to supremes. Yixing was very shocked when he heard this. Yixing nodded repeatedly and said, it is indeed very fortunate. Brother He Biao just said that the green-haired dead spirits invaded once 100,000 years ago, and the entire Starry Sky continent was plunged into misery and suffering. It was only when the gods descended that the Starry Sky continent was saved. Presumably, even if the green-haired dead spirits were eliminated, the Starry Sky continent would need a very long time to recover. The dead spirits killed living creatures and directly devoured their flesh and blood. It's too frightening. Wei Qingxian said, that's for sure. However, the gods that can come to the Starry Sky continent are at least true gods. Quasi-gods can't travel through the void between different Starry Sky continents. The Starry Sky continent is only an ordinary low-level continent, and certainly won't be noticed by true gods. I'm afraid that true gods only came a long time after the green-haired dead spirits invaded the Starry Sky continent. Who knows how many humans of the Starry Sky continent fell in that great calamity? Yixing clenched his fists and said, whether it is for the corpse jade or for the hatred of humans, when we go to the ocean of black prison this time, we must exterminate all the dead spirits. Yixing's eyes emitted an intense battle intent. Going to the ocean of black prison to gain experience and engage in a life and death battle with the dead spirits made Yixing excited. His long dormant blood was somewhat restless. The next day, early in the morning, the Black Biao King brought Yixing and Wei Qingxian to the Dark Star Palace. Many martial artists were gathered in the palace. Apart from the upper echelons of kings, they were all high lords. Yixing estimated that there were exactly 100 people including himself and Wei Qingxian. Among these 100 people, there were 5 half-step kings, 12 9-star high lords, 29 8-star high lords, and 52 7-star high lords. These high lords accounted for at least 70% of the Dark Star sect's high lords. Among 5-star powers, kings were the upper echelons, while high lords were the backbone. The Dark Star sect had mobilized 70% of their high lords in one go. It could be said that they had invested a lot. Exterminating the green-haired undead spirit was one of the main reasons, but it was also for the corpse jade on the green-haired undead spirit's corpse jade. Soon, the 100 people were divided into 10 small teams. Yixing and Wei Qingxian were naturally in the same team. There were 2 9-star high lords in the team, and the captain was a half-step king. It was a powerful team, and also a kind of protection for Yixing and Wei Qingxian. 6 updates for 3 days in a row. Brothers, your monthly votes aren't very enthusiastic. You're still hovering around the top 100. What a tragedy. Let me rest for today. I'll continue tomorrow with 6 updates. Monthly votes, please rise up. When can you charge into the top 100? Chapter 688. Green-furred monsters rarely travel alone. They like to travel in groups. After you enter the Sea of Black Prison, be careful. Don't be too far apart from each other. If there's a situation, contact each other. Before leaving, the Dark Star Sect Master instructed. Right now, the Great Yuan Dynasty's focus was on the green-furred undead that had invaded the Star Continent. A large number of kings were hunting down the green-furred undead that continued to stay in the North Underworld continent. On this trip to the Sea of Black Prison, they had to pass through the North Underworld continent and might encounter the kings of the Great Yuan Dynasty. Therefore, the sovereigns heading to the Sea of Black Prison had to be escorted by kings. The Dark Star Sect Master and the Black Biao King were among them. The Dark Star Sect naturally had a hidden teleportation array in the North Underworld continent. Using the Rank 5 teleportation array, they directly arrived at the North Underworld continent. Then, using the teleportation array in the North Underworld continent, they arrived at the extreme north of the North Underworld continent. The group continued to fly towards the Sea of Black Prison. The Star Continent was extremely vast with no end in sight. The northernmost part of the northern nether continent was a gigantic icy plain. However, past this plain was a black ocean with a chaotic space. The black water was filled with a strange aura. Normally, although martial artists below the king level could enter the Sea of Black Prison, no martial artist was willing to enter. It was practically a forbidden area. However, this forbidden area was now bustling with activity because of the green-furred undead. The sovereigns of the Great Yuan Dynasty and the Dark Star Sect arrived at the Sea of Black Prison one after another. Even some sovereigns of high-rank empires were dispatched. They formed teams and ventured into the Sea of Black Prison, wanting to obtain corpse jades. Corpse jades contained the purest star energy and could directly increase a martial artist's cultivation. Some martial artists who had exhausted their potential could no longer make progress through normal cultivation. However, they could continue to increase their cultivation through corpse jades. Whether it was a 7-star sovereign advancing to an 8-star sovereign or an 8-star sovereign advancing to a 9-star sovereign, their strength and status would greatly increase. There was no sovereign who didn't desire a mystic corpse jade. Be careful in the Sea of Black Prison. Safety is the priority. Also, pay attention to the Great Yuan Dynasty's team. Be careful of them attacking you in the Sea of Black Prison. At the edge of the Sea of Black Prison, the Black Biao King warned Yixing nodded. The Dark Star religious leader stood in front of the group of venerables and said loudly, after entering the Sea of Black Prison, listen to the orders of the captains and don't act on your own accord. The corpse jades that you obtain will be kept by the captains. 2/3 of the corpse jades will be distributed according to the merits, while the rest will be handed over to the Internal Affairs Hall as resources of the religious leader. The Dark Star Religion Master nodded in satisfaction and said, the purpose of entering the Sea of Darkness Prison is to kill the green-furred monsters. If you encounter a team of other martial artists, you are not allowed to attack them. If you encounter a team of the Great Yuan Dynasty, you are to avoid them as much as possible. However, if you are unable to avoid them and they take the initiative to attack, there is no need to fear them. Yes. The Dark Star Sect Master waved his hand. Go in. Under the leadership of the various captains, the 10 teams entered the Sea of Abyss Prison one after another, and then dispersed. The seawater below the Sea of Abyss Prison was as black as ink. It was incomparably dark and emitted an extremely cold aura. Normal water should have been frozen long ago. However, there wasn't the slightest sign of it. Looking at the surging black water, everyone instinctively chose to stay away. They flew 100 meters above the void, looking for land. The black seawater didn't just look scary, it was indeed very harmful to martial artists. This was because the seawater contained a dense death chi. If martial artists entered it, they would be invaded by the death chi. Even kings wouldn't be able to last for long. Astral-reaching realm sovereigns could only hold on for 30 breaths of time. After 30 breaths of time, the death chi in their bodies would exceed their life force. Their life force would be destroyed, and they would die immediately. Since the black water was so dangerous, the sovereigns naturally didn't dare to get too close. Yixing's team flew forward for several hundred miles before they saw land. "Leader, there's land ahead." An 8-star sovereign cheered excitedly. In the sea of black prison, the pitch-black water made people feel uneasy. So, the appearance of land naturally made them happy. Moreover, those green-furred undead spirits should be hiding on the various islands of the sea of black prison. There was a possibility of finding them. Soon, Yixing's team arrived on the island. According to their visual estimation, the island was dozens of li long and wide. It wasn't small, and could hide a lot of green-furred undead spirits. The 10 people in the team searched the island in twos. The sovereigns had already opened their martial Dao heavenly eyes. Apart from Yixing and Wei Qingxian, the rest of the team were sovereigns. The martial Dao heavenly eyes' observation power was very sharp. It didn't take long for them to search the entire island. There wasn't any trace of green-furred undead spirits. Entering the sea of black prison was to kill the green-furred undead spirits. Each team was very powerful. With such ample preparations, the sovereigns naturally weren't afraid of the green-furred undead spirits' counterattack. In their eyes, as long as they encountered a green-furred undead spirit, it would be the same as obtaining a corpse jade. Therefore, the sovereigns were very disappointed that they couldn't find any green-furred undead spirits on the island. Team leader Zhuo Zhenghai flew into the sky and retracted his gaze from the island. He said, "Maybe this place is too close to the sea. If we go deeper, we'll definitely find green-furred monsters and obtain corpse jades." The sovereigns nodded. With Zhuo Zhenghai at the front, the team continued to go deeper into the sea of black prison. Yixing and Wei Qingxian followed. Just as Yixing's team left, a green-furred undead spirit walked out of the black water at a certain beach on the island. The green-furred undead spirit's eyes bloomed with green light. It glanced at Yixing's team, then with a splash, it jumped back into the black water and disappeared. The sea of black prison's water was rich with death chi. It was extremely terrifying for martial artists, but for undead spirits from the world of death, it wasn't dangerous at all. They could enter and leave as they wished. Therefore, it was impossible to find a green-furred undead spirit in the sea of black prison. Unless, the green-furred undead spirit came to them on its own. Above the black water, Yixing, who was flying at the back of the team, looked back. He had a feeling that he was being watched. Yixing opened his martial Dao heavenly eye and used the eye of azure cloud at the same time. He looked into the distance and could clearly see everything within 100 miles. However, he didn't find anything suspicious. Zhuo Zhenghai contacted the nearby team leaders and learned that the nearby teams had also discovered the island. However, the results were the same. They didn't find any trace of the green-furred undead spirit. Chapter 689. In the blink of an eye, it had been half a month since Yixing entered the Sea of Darkness prison. In this half a month, Yixing's team had encountered a High Lord team from a high-rank empire once and a High Lord team from the Deyuan dynasty twice. However, they had not encountered the green-furred undead even once. The High Lord teams from high-rank empires naturally did not dare to provoke the Dark Star sect's team. As for the Deyuan dynasty's team, they only had a little verbal conflict. Although the Deyuan dynasty's team recognized Yixing and knew that Yixing was someone that the Supreme King, Meng Tai, had ordered to kill, Yixing's team was too strong. They did not dare to act rashly. After all, this was the Sea of Darkness prison. There were many green-furred undead lurking in the Sea of Darkness. These were the real enemies. If they did not have the confidence to defeat Yixing's team, it was very likely that both sides would suffer. In that case, the green-furred undead would be the ones to benefit, and they would all be turned into human skin skeletons. In half a month's time, they had already traveled tens of thousands of miles into the Sea of Darkness prison. However, they had not encountered a single green-furred undead. This caused the ambitious and excited High Lords to feel very disappointed. They had long since lost their initial excitement. On the 16th day, although the morale of Yixing's team was low, they still searched for the green-furred undead as usual. They had found a new island. This was a large island with a circumference of several hundred miles. However, it was of no use. In the past half a month, they had even searched large islands with a circumference of several thousand miles. However, they still found nothing. Therefore, this large island with a circumference of several hundred miles did not pique their interest. The 10 of them split into 5 teams and searched separately. However, something unexpected happened this time. Assemble. After searching for less than 10 breaths, Captain Zhuo Zhenghai suddenly yelled, "Let's go!" Something happened. The High Lord's eyes lit up. Yixing and Wei Qingxian also glanced at Zhuo Zhenghai and quickly rushed over. Zhuo Zhenghai shouted, "Team 10 is being attacked by green-furred monsters. Come with me to rescue them." Zhuo Zhenghai's mystic-grade mid-grade flight wings spread open behind him as he quickly flew to the left. Hearing that they had been attacked, the High Lords weren't worried at all. Instead, they were pleasantly surprised. After half a month, they could finally have a big fight with the green-furred monster. Everyone had mystic-grade flight wings on their bodies, ranging from low-grade to mid-grade. When they flew at full speed, their speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they had covered 10 li. The 10th squad that was attacked was the weakest of the Dark Star sect squads. Of the 10 squads of the Dark Star sect, one was stronger than the other, and the other was weaker. The first squad was the strongest, so it was the closest to the 10th squad. Yixing and the others quickly left the island and flew above the sea. After flying for over 200 li, they opened their martial eyes and finally saw the 10th squad that was over 100 li away. The 10th squad was not located on the island, but in the sky above the sea. One after another, the green-haired undead rose from the Black Sea and attacked the members of the 10th squad. These green-haired undead were all High Lords, and some were even comparable to High Lords. Even though the members of the 10th squad were all High Lords, if they were slightly careless, they would be caught by the green-haired undead and dragged into the sea. From afar, Yixing saw a 7-star High Lord being caught by 2 green-haired undead and falling into the pitch-black sea below. The odds were against him. Whoosh! The captain of the 10th squad, a 9-star High Lord, released a dazzling starlight that formed a barrier around him. He rushed down with the High Lord that had fallen into the sea. With a loud rumble, a 100-meter-tall wave rose from the sea as a huge collision occurred under the sea. In the next instant, the 9-star High Lord rushed out of the pitch-black sea, holding the 7-star High Lord that had been dragged down by the green-haired undead. Fortunately, the 9-star High Lord had saved him. Otherwise, the 7-star High Lord would have died without a doubt. However, even though he had been saved, 2 bloody holes had appeared on the 7-star High Lord's neck. His eyes were filled with fear, and he was scared half to death. Whoosh 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 whoosh. In Yixing's squad, those with mid-grade mystic-grade flight wings erupted with their maximum speed as they rushed toward the 10th squad. Yixing was also among them. Plop plop, these green-haired undead were aware that Yixing and the others were rushing over. As soon as Yixing and the others approached, they fell into the Black Sea one by one. "Where do you think you're going?" Zhuo Zhenghai shouted. Astral energy formed a dazzling barrier around him as he rushed into the pitch-black sea. Although the sea was filled with death energy and a High Lord's life would be in danger if they stayed in it for 30 breaths of time, it wouldn't be a problem if they only went down for a few breaths of time. The 2 9-star High Lords in the squad were also bold. They also protected themselves with astral energy and locked onto their targets with their martial Dao heavenly eyes as they rushed into the sea. As for the 8-star High Lords, they didn't have the courage. Their strength would be reduced underwater, and the green-haired undead might drag them into the sea and kill them. Plop! With a fourth splash, Yixing followed the 2 9-star High Lords and rushed into the sea. His body instantly transformed into dragon form, and he wasn't any weaker than a 9-star High Lord. Rumble, the sea shook, and waves surged into the sky. Intense collisions occurred under the sea. When the captain of the 10th squad had entered the sea, the collisions only lasted for an instant before he rescued the 7-star High Lord and rushed out. However, this time, the collisions lasted for a few breaths of time. Previously, the green-haired undead were attacking from above the sea. The captain of the 10th squad had beaten back 2 of the green-haired undead and rescued the 7-star High Lord. However, there were now a large number of green-haired undead in the sea, and Yixing and the others were surrounded as soon as they entered the sea. Whoosh! Whoosh! After 3 breaths of time, 2 figures rushed out of the pitch-black sea, one in front and one behind. Each of them had a green-haired undead in their astral hands. One was half-step King Zhuo, while the other was shining with golden light and covered in dragon scales. It was Yixing. Subsequently, the 2 9-star High Lords also rushed out of the sea. However, they didn't have anything in their hands. Originally, they each had a green-haired undead, but they were soon surrounded and almost lost their lives. They could only give up on the green-haired undead and rush out themselves. The High Lords didn't find it strange that Zhuo could catch a green-haired undead because he was a half-step king, the strongest expert under the kings of the Dark Star sect. However, Yixing was also able to catch one, which shocked the High Lords. The sea was still rippling, and it wouldn't calm down for a while. However, the High Lords opened their martial Dao heavenly eyes and searched under the sea, but they couldn't find any trace of the green-haired undead. They had already escaped. Plop! Plop! The corpses of the 2 green-haired undead fell into the sea. Zhuo and Yixing each had a corpse jade in their hands. There was a small island a few dozen li away. The members of the 1st and 10th squads quickly arrived at the island. Chapter 690. The corpse jade in Yixing's hand was a profound grade 3 corpse jade, a profound grade low-grade corpse jade. It was useful for a 5-star venerable's cultivation. However, Yixing's astral energy was far superior to venerables of the same cultivation level. The corpse jade he needed was at least of the same level as a 7-star venerable lord's. It had to be profound grade 4 or above. If it was a profound grade 4 corpse jade, Yixing would have to make a breakthrough first. After becoming a 6-star venerable, his strength would increase again. In the Sea of Darkness prison, the stronger he was, the better. However, this corpse jade was only a profound grade 3 corpse jade. Yixing directly handed it to Zhuo. Zhuo did not accept it. He said in surprise, "This is the corpse jade you obtained after risking your life by rushing into the sea. It's different from the corpse jade obtained by everyone working together. You can keep it for yourself." Zhuo glanced at the others and said, "You all know what happened just now. Do you have any objections?" The supremacies shook their heads. The pitch-black sea was terrifying. There were a large number of green-furred undead below. How dangerous would it be to rush in? It was like tying one's head to one's waist. If everyone had killed the green-furred undead together, no matter who obtained the corpse jade, they would have to hand it over first. However, under the circumstances just now, they could keep the corpse jade they obtained. Yixing took back the corpse jade and said, I need a profound grade 4 corpse jade or above to make a breakthrough. This one is useless. Since it's useless, I might as well hand it over. I've received benefits from the Dark Star sect, so I should make some contributions. Of course, Yixing did not say these words. Shuo Zhenghai also obtained a corpse jade. Since he could keep the corpse jade he obtained, if Yixing handed it over, wouldn't Shuo Zhenghai have to hand it over as well? Otherwise, how could he not feel embarrassed? Yixing naturally wouldn't do something that would put him in a difficult position. Shuo Zhenghai was a carefree person. When he heard Yixing's words, he took out the corpse jade he had just obtained and tossed it to Yixing. Shuo Zhenghai said, the corpse jade I obtained is of the profound grade 4th stage. If it's effective for your cultivation, then take it and cultivate for now. If you can achieve a breakthrough in your cultivation, then you'll be safer in the Sea of Abyss prison. Yixing took over the corpse jade, and his impression of Shuo Zhenghai greatly improved. He said, many thanks, I will definitely return you an even better one in the future. I will cultivate here and try to break through to the 6th level of astral reaching realm. I hope everyone can protect me. Shuo Zhenghai nodded and said, no problem, but the death chi in the corpse jade is very dense, so don't absorb it too quickly. Yixing nodded and sat down in an empty area on the island. He took out the rank 4 profound grade corpse jade and prepared to break through to the 6th level of the astral reaching realm. Wei Qingxian sat down on the seat closest to Yixing, protecting Yixing, senior brother Zhenghai, many thanks. At this moment, the captain of the first squad, Lin Nanxing, had already stabilized the injuries of the injured 7-star Venerable Lord and came over to express his gratitude. Shuo Zhenghai glanced at the injured 7-star Venerable Lord and said, Junior brother Yuanqiu's injuries are not serious, right? Lin Nanxing said, his injuries have been stabilized, but he was too frightened and fainted for a moment. He should be fine when he wakes up. Then, Lin Nanxing's tone changed, I didn't expect these green-furred monsters to be so cunning. They suddenly attacked us in the sea and caught us off guard. Shuo Zhenghai nodded and said, now I know why we couldn't find any traces of those green-furred monsters after searching for half a month. It seems like they are hiding in the sea. If they don't come to us on their own, we won't be able to find them for the rest of our lives. Lin Nanxing said, what should we do? The seawater of the Sea of Abyss prison is very harmful to human cultivators. We can't stay in the sea for too long. There's nothing we can do if they hide in the sea. Shuo Zhenghai thought for a moment and said, all 10 of you are venerable lords and are very powerful, but the green-furred monsters still attacked you. This shows that they want to kill us just as much as we want to kill them. We want their corpse jades, and they want our flesh and blood. The reason they didn't attack us for half a month is because they know we are powerful. Even so, they still couldn't help but attack us. Although only a small portion of them attacked us, it shows that they can't wait any longer. Therefore, if we give them enough temptation, I believe they won't be able to resist coming out. Lin Nanxing said, how? Shuo Zhenghai said, aren't they afraid because we are too powerful? We can pretend to be weak and split up a small portion of our forces to lure them out. Then, we can trap them with a formation. After that, our main force will rush over and kill them. Lin Nanxing's eyes lit up. This was a good idea. However, Lin Nanxing immediately shook his head and said, although this is a good idea, won't the people in charge of luring them be in danger? These green-furred monsters kill too quickly. Once they bite someone, their flesh and blood will be sucked dry in just a few dozen breaths. Moreover, they don't even have to wait for their flesh and blood to be sucked dry before they die. I think even a venerable lord can only last 10 breaths if they are bitten. After that, they will definitely die. Shuo Zhenghai frowned. This was indeed a problem. If the bait was too strong, the green-furred undead might not show up. If the bait was too weak, they might not be able to survive under the attacks of the green-furred undead. If the green-furred undead swarmed over, apart from 9th-star Venerable Lords, 7th-star Venerable Lords and 8th-star Venerable Lords would probably die in a breath or two. However, if a 9th-star Venerable Lord was used as bait, the green-furred undead would be able to sense the cultivator's cultivation and might not show up. Shuo Xinghai's gaze swept across everyone. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. His gaze fell on Yixing. Shuo Xinghai said, "If we're talking about bait, Yixing is the best choice. His cultivation isn't high, but he's strong enough." Lin Nancheng glanced at Yixing and said, "Senior brother Xinghai, Yixing is indeed a good choice, but he's a fiend star in a time of chaos. Lord Left Star Emissary has repeatedly told us to ensure his safety. What if something happens to him if he takes the risk?" No. Shuo Zhenghai frowned. He was also slightly troubled. But if we want to act as bait, only a prodigy with a high cultivation base and powerful abilities like him is the most suitable candidate. Aside from Yixing, the only other candidate is the young cult master. However, the young cult master isn't in either of our teams. Lin Nancheng was shocked. He said, "You're really daring. If it's not Yixing, the fiend star in a time of chaos, then it's the young lord. No matter which one of them goes wrong, can we take responsibility? We'll be in serious trouble." Shuo Zhenghai shrugged and said, "This won't work, that won't work. I don't have a choice. I'd like to be the bait myself, but if I just stand there, those damn green-furred monsters won't dare to come out." Chapter 691. Just as Lin Nancheng and Shuo Zhenghai were discussing, a sudden surge of star power rippled. Star yuan qi from all directions converged towards a certain part of the island. The Supremes looked over and saw that the star yuan qi was pouring into Yixing's body. For a moment, there was too much star yuan qi, and it couldn't pour into Yixing's body at the same time. Thus, it started to circulate outside of Yixing's body, forming a funnel-shaped whirlpool. The Supremes were astonished. Yixing's cultivation had actually broken through the 6th level of astral reaching realm, becoming a 6-star Supreme so quickly. The star power in the profound grade 4 corpse jade was indeed pure and extremely dense. Seeing that there was hope for him to break through to the 6th level of astral reaching realm, Yixing immediately broke through to the 6th level of astral reaching realm. At this moment, there were faintly discernible black lines on Yixing's face. This was the death qi in the corpse jade. Although the star power in the corpse jade was pure, there was also a lot of death qi. After breaking through to the 6-star Supremes, Yixing hurriedly put away the corpse jade. He was afraid that if he continued to absorb, there would be too much death qi in his body. If it exceeded his vitality, it would cause great damage to his vitality, and he might even lose his life. Having just broken through to the 6-star Supremes, and with the help of the corpse jade, Yixing's cultivation wasn't stable. He hurriedly took out a few remaining eternity flowers and consumed them to stabilize his cultivation. At this moment, the Supremes were discussing spiritedly. It was as if a pot had exploded, and all of them were exclaiming in admiration. After Wei Qingxian, Yixing also broke through to the 6-star Supremes. This cultivation speed shocked the Supremes. After breaking through to the 6-star Supremes, Yixing cultivated for another hour or so before opening his eyes. His cultivation had finally stabilized at the early stage of the 6th level of astral reaching realm. Wei Qingxian looked over and faintly smiled at Yixing. There was no need for words. All her emotions were in her eyes. Shuo Zhenghai quickly walked over and said, "Yixing, I thought that with the profound grade 4 corpse jade, you would need 3 to 5 days to break through. I didn't expect you to break through so quickly. You must have absorbed a lot of energy, right? It's too risky." Shuo Zhenghai was shocked when he saw the faintly discernible black threads on Yixing's face. Yixing said, "I know what I'm doing. I can take this bit of death energy, so I broke through in one go. This way, I'll be stronger and I'll be able to kill more green-furred monsters." Yixing couldn't mention the name undead to anyone else. These were Wei Qingshuan's secrets, and couldn't be exposed. Its body suddenly rushed down and reached out to grab Yixing. Just as the black flood dragon's gaze focused on Yixing, Yixing felt its gaze. He looked up and was shocked to see the black flood dragon descending from the sky. "Be careful!" Yixing shouted. Boom! The black flood dragon's huge claws grabbed the light shield of the formation, causing a loud explosion. Crack crack! The light shield of the formation instantly cracked. The flood dragon's claws continued to descend and directly destroyed the light shield. The power of a single blow was enough to destroy the light shield of a large success stage. What kind of strength was this? It was almost equivalent to a strike from a king. Everyone was shocked. Yixing could feel that the black flood dragon's target was him. His figure suddenly soared into the sky and flew several miles away from the others to avoid being accidentally injured by the black flood dragon. Divine dragon's blood, the heavens bless this flood dragon, I can evolve into a dragon. The black flood dragon's gaze followed Yixing's figure as it let out an excited cry. Rip, the void shattered. The black flood dragon was as fast as lightning as it rushed toward Yixing. Once again, it stretched out its claws and grabbed at Yixing's head. In the valley, all the Supremes were shocked. Shuo Zhenghai said in shock, "Dark Abyss Flood Dragon, a Dark Abyss Flood Dragon that likes to live in places with death chi. Heavens, why is there a Dark Abyss Flood Dragon here? It's almost a demonic beast king. How terrifying is its strength." As soon as Shuo Zhenghai's voice fell, Yixing's dragon claws clenched into a fist and collided with the Dark Abyss Flood Dragon's huge claws. Yixing had used the dragon race's martial arts for this punch, and its power was fully unleashed. Even among half-step kings, there were very few who could block this punch. Boom! With a loud explosion, Yixing was instantly sent flying. His body fiercely crashed into a mountain several miles away. All the Supremes' hearts skipped a beat, and their faces turned pale. It's the sixth watch again. Brothers, where are your monthly tickets?